Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the show today. Very happy to have you here with us. Hopefully, you all had yourselves a really good weekend. Mine was quiet, which is always nice. It's a sunny day here too, so that's nice because we just coming out of the rainy season. I don't know if it's officially over, but Asia or the Orient, I should be more specific, got hit with a big, huge storm front here the past couple of weeks, and there's flooding everywhere. Every country in Asia, they're just flooding. But it happens every year. So, um, it's about really putting money into it. I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day, because if you go down the south or you go to the Netherlands, for instance, they don't have a lot of those issues, and it's because they spend a lot of money to, build canals and move water because they deal with it more regularly than anyone else. And they have other problems, I suppose, but I'm just saying in that dealing with it here in Asia, they don't seem to spend the money to just solve the problem. Move the water around, canal it up, and stuff like that. But nevertheless, we did get hit. We here in my little town, it was fine, but where the city where my kids are living did get hit pretty heavily. They're fine, of course. But nevertheless, hopefully you all had yourselves a really good weekend. I'm going to go over here and hit the like and share button. And I hope you guys will do the same. Let everybody know we're on so they come in here and be part of it. Let's see here. There we go. Yes, night owls on heteronormativity. It's a big word. Yeah. But of course, this is the one of the major buzzwords that they are all about these days, and we're going to take a look at it. Because you could use another word instead of this gigantic word of heteronormativity. I mean, it's a big, long word. I mean, look how many syllables in that. You could just use the word, normal, but hey, who am I? But hit that like share button, and we're going to be getting into today. I did see Thundera running around chatting with people about stuff, so I'm assuming he'll be in here soon. But if you could let people know we're coming in, because you know that YouTube isn't going to do any notifications for us. Uh, you know, we're too small, I guess. I don't know if I actually hit the 1,000 number mark. I'd never checked. I should probably check because supposedly that's when everything kind of flips around for you. Let's see. Nope, 982. Close. It's close. They usually knock us down by now. We'll see. But maybe sometime in our life, just before YouTube decides to cancel us, we'll actually hit 1,000. Wouldn't that be nice? Nevertheless, welcome everyone. And we do have a lot of things to get into. We're going to be talking about today. Hopefully, you guys have your things to say. We got a lady over here, Roger. Let's see, what does lady say? She says, let's see, I don't know. Dance is coming into the chat. I don't know what that means, but okay. Oh, you're dancing into the chat. I get it. She says, howdy. Of course, Roger's saying hello as well. And keep staying safe and staying blessed, Lady Celtic Moon. That's nice. That's very nice. And YouTube won't let you. No, they won't. They won't, and that's okay. There are millions of us in our where we just don't qualify, and it kind of comes in today's conversation about heteronormativity. In regards to almost every day, I wake up. I turn on the YouTube. I watch things like boats, carpentry, building things, all kind of stuff. I watch a little bit of news, but mostly I watch things like Lotus Eater or something like that. But every damn day I wake up, there's always something new that is of the right wing. There's always something new. Today, I noticed that now working out, exercising, getting in shape is the white supremacists. So, there's that. But every day, I was kind of joking this morning, and I was like, why don't they just come out and say we don't like men? You know, why don't they just do that? Wouldn't it be easier than constantly trying to nitpick every little thing? Just come out and say we hate men. Just do that. That would be easier, less work, wouldn't it? Because that's what it boils down to, isn't it? But literally, exercising and getting in shape now is somehow evil. Wow. Must be colonialistic. That's another word I hear a lot these days. But nevertheless, my wife was watching Wimbledon last night, and it was some little Spanish kid going against the big bad Djokovic, and who won that baby? She didn't check it. She couldn't. She went 3.5 hours, and it was halfway done, and she was like, That's enough, Moe, I'm done." And she backed out, which is why I don't watch tennis. Boring as hell. My God, how many hours do you have to sit and watch people scream at their racket? I mean, really. It's not as bad as soccer, though. Soccer is the worst game ever made. Once again, a British creation, and they should be damned for it. There's a long list of things the British should be damned for, but that's certainly on it. Although I do appreciate the rugby, but the soccer, ugh, ugh, horrible soccer. Boring shit. They go on and on all season, and throughout the entire season of 1,000 games, whatever the number is, I don't really know because I don't watch soccer. But whatever it is, they go out through how many ever games in this season they have, and they score 2 goals, two, because it's soccer. Hey, Thundero, you're not coming through. I am. You're not. Let me see if I can fix you. I shall fix you. Djokovic lost. Aw, poor you little Djokovic. Okay. Let's see here. Here we go. Can I hear you now? Huh. It's weird. Maybe the problem's not here. Let me go over on the Discord. It's probably there. Let's see here. Let me come into the settings. Let me go into it happens like that. I didn't get an update. Usually when an update happens, voice and video. Let's see, it's got default and default. So let me just do this, and then we do which one? This one. Go ahead, talk now.
Hello.
Oh, there you are. There he
Look
is.
at that.
It's all
Almost like it was magic.
yeah,
Yeah,
almost.
Discord updates and changes your settings because screw you. That's why.
That's why. Yeah, yeah. I don't know why.
There's
The
literally no reason for it to do that other than they make it do that because
Yeah,
screw you.
because they
That's
think it's
why.
funny. Well, it's like the idiots over at Maxis, right? Because they're the ones that make the Sims, right? EA won't let them stop modding because obviously it's the only thing that keeps the game alive. I mean, of all types, there's all modding for everything you can imagine in that game. Just thousands and thousands upon thousands of mods, and the Maxis people want to get rid of it because they don't like it. They don't like
Yeah.
it. Would you like to guess why?
Money.
No, no. Well, they don't like money. Those progressive types. That's true. But no, because if you can mod, you can change the wonderful life improvements they put in the game. Like for instance, your refrigerator when you go cooking only makes vegan food, as it should be.
Oh my god. Are you
Yeah,
serious?
you have to mod that shit. Yeah, you do. Yeah,
Oh my actual lord.
yeah,
That is oof.
yeah, yeah,
Just oof.
yeah. It's like they just came out with a thing where now you have to shave. And for the male character, I'm actually kind of in the process of playing a programmer, a male programmer. He's actually a black boy with glasses.
Oh no.
I was having Urkel flashbacks, but
Oh no.
anyway, I'm having fun playing the character. And I noticed his beard kept growing, and I was like, okay, so you got to go to the shower. You can't do it in the sink for some reason. You got to go to the shower to shave it. I'm like, all right, for the male, that's fine. For male, it's fine. But somewhere during the process, I want to marry the guy. So I can make
Right.
a family. It's part of the process of The Sims. So you kind of go through that process. But I noticed the lady's arms, forearms particularly, and legs were I don't know, gorilla-esque,
Mhm.
very, very, very hairy, and I was like, hmm.
Uh-oh.
So finally, I married him, right? You have to go through. It takes time. It's part of the game. And so I sent her into the shower to shave, and I can't shave everything, so I had to do once to shave the legs, which a benefit is it does kind of fill your hygiene, which is good. Then you have to do it again for the arms, though. You see, because you can't just shave, right?
Right.
But the problem is that she was gorilla-esque again in like less than a day in game, right?
Oh
And
my.
I'm like, Jesus, how many times I got? So I just gave up and let her be hairy.
They
You
won't
know,
automatically just do it.
well, that's the thing. I'm like, it's not a bad idea, right? I mean, it's particularly with men. Oh, okay, it's a nice little feature, but there's no off button.
Right.
I mean, I went into the settings and checked. There's no off button. Now I'm sure someone's already modded it and it's up somewhere, and I have to go look for it and drop that mod, which is why mods are valuable in a game like that. But the
Yes.
Maxis people, they don't want you to do that because they're making the world better. Anyway, was she Italian? Dave said, "Hey, now, don't you pick on them Italian girls. They are hairy, though. That is true. They are super hairy. You can see them a mile away on the beach. It's just some
Walking hairball.
wolf moving across the street, the sands. It's blowing in the wind. She forgot to shave today. Whew. I
Oh
knew an
no.
Italian. I dated a little Italian girl once, a long time ago. She was a cute little thing, and she was, fiery as they are, but not the worst. I've seen much worse. But
Oh yeah.
boy, she needed to shave a lot, dude. Yep, 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 yep. And I don't think
Big
Japanese
shaver.
women have to shave as much. How often do you shave, baby?
Oh no.
No comment. She's looking
That's
at
funny.
me sideways. How dare you ask such a question? All right. Nevertheless, how was your weekend, dude?
Splendid. Yesterday I did nothing, and
Mm,
that was awesome
mm,
to have a day to just do nothing. Today I did a little bit of business,
mm,
and then yeah, pretty good weekend. It was really nice weather here. Yesterday was fine because I was inside all day anyway, and it rained all day. That's all right because it was a nice rain. It wasn't like that nasty, like heavy downpour, or that wicked windy cold stuff or whatever. Just a nice steady rain. Um, and then yeah, today hung out with the wife a little bit.
mm.
Like I said, got some business done. Other than that, pretty good day. My wife is
Does.
doing her toes. In
Oh,
case you're, in
she's
case
doing
you're
her
wondering,
toes. Okay.
yeah,
Well, my
yeah.
wife was doing laundry, but no,
Well, she did that earlier.
yeah, she's working on the laundry. Yeah, I'm not allowed to
Laundry.
touch it. Seemingly, I don't fold it correctly. What kind of complaint is
I,
that? It's folded and it's in the damn drawer. What do you care? But no, I'm not allowed to touch laundry. I
yeah, she used to have that with me, but then she got tired of doing it all. I think so. Occasionally, I'll do a load or two.
Oh, I see. She has an American brain. The Japanese brain never considers that. Shh, don't say anything. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But did you? We're talking about heteronormativity today.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So normal. I
Yeah.
like how they
Normal.
come up with new
Yeah.
words instead of just because they're so afraid of being seen for the freaks that they are.
Uh-huh.
So they have to come up with new words to try and ostracize and demonize normal.
You won't believe who's on board with it, though. You'll be
Oh,
shocked.
I doubt it, but
Yeah.
let's see. We'll see.
We'll see. But of course, you won't be shocked at all. I also tried to make a little bit of a joke. I said, uh, uh, veni vidii ricci. I made a joke, a little bit of a joke. You know.
With proper Latin, I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it should have been venimus vidimus risimus would have been correct, but no one ever would get that. You have to have the kind of classic Hollywood take on it, right?
Yep.
They always cut the moose out. I don't know why, because that would be I,
Right.
right? But they just came, saw, in my case, laughed. Risi, ne? Yeah, well, whatever. But language jokes are my thing. I'm here
They
all week,
are, in
folks.
fact, officially your thing.
They
You even
are.
have a degree
I
to
do.
prove that.
I'm certified. You ain't certified. Don't you dare
He
make
spent
these
a, he
jokes.
spent a lot of money to be able to tell those jokes. You better laugh.
Actually, I spent nothing.
Oh, look at this guy with his smarts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why'd you spend nothing? Did you get scholarships? Or
Mm-hmm.
did daddy
Full
pay for
boat, baby. No, God, not my parents are poor, dude. Yeah.
it?
No, my parents ain't got no
uh,
money, dude. My dad worked for the government.
well, the key word there is he actually worked for the government, because there's plenty of people in government that got all kinds of money, but they don't do no work.
Well, that's fair, but no, he was an actual worker in the government, and he didn't make the. I mean, I was probably okay, but my mother was unbridled American lady who had no sense of actual economy.
Yeah,
You ever met one of
I
them?
didn't marry. Yeah, luckily I did not marry one of those. She's
Yeah,
actually more annoying about money sometimes than I am, and I
yeah.
have to
No,
yell
my
at her to
wife's
spend
more
money.
frugal than I am. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
good for us.
yeah. I
My
think that's
mother
probably why
was
I had a
not.
mother like that too. Who had,
Yeah,
and when she was a little young, when she got older, she tightened up a little bit. But when she was younger, she just didn't care. She was like my
yeah.
sister. My sister once said to me, exact words, Chester.
Hmm.
This is when I was a little bit poor. I needed like $500 for something,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to spend my entire bank account basically on this thing. And I got mad because my current girlfriend at the time spent a whole bunch of money we didn't even have. And
Yeah.
she's like, I don't know why you're getting mad. You can always just make more.
Ooh,
And I was like,
ooh. When they say that, it's like a knife right to the gizzard.
which, thinking about it now, she's right. You will make more money in the end
Yeah, but
than you will ever most likely ever spend.
it's such an
But
entitled comment, dude.
it is exactly it coming from somebody who's not even in the situation, and two, coming from a female who, granted, yes, she works very very hard, but she has never really fully understood what it is to be poor.
Yeah.
Right? My parents, even when they were younger, always were doing pretty good, doing well, and then
Yeah.
as we got older, they did better, as people typically do, usually.
Hmm.
Um, so she doesn't really understand what it's like to truly not have money. She's always kind of had that situation set up, and I do, on the other hand, because my parents lost a lot of their money, like right around the time I was becoming an adult, because of the stock market and everything, economy crash, and things got really tight. And then I went for a few years where I was really really very little money when I was taking care of my mom. I think I've told you about that. And then there was also a time in my life for about 2 months where I didn't have a place to sleep.
Hmm.
Not legally anyway, not officially. I mean, I had places I could go. I could always have went back to my parents' house if I wanted to, but I didn't want
Right.
to do that. And I stayed with my current wife when she was living for a couple nights, or I'd stay at a friend's house or whatever. But
Right.
technically, I was homeless,
Mm.
so I'd sleep in my work van, stuff like that. But my point is, a lot of people don't understand that when you say it's okay if you spent that money, just make more, how ridiculous that sounds.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, especially coming out of a female. But yeah, no, no. My story seems to be the exact opposite of yours. I was
Hmm.
actually living in a nice oceanfront property, partying every Friday and Saturday night, and my
Oh.
father, literally, and I was surprised he did, which is probably why I agreed. Actually came to me and asked if I would take move into their place because they couldn't make rent,
Hmm.
right? And I should have flat out said no, but I didn't.
Yep.
That was a mistake. But yeah, no, I'm the opposite. I mean, I told you on my 18th birthday, right? My
Yep.
18th birthday, and my birthday is in June, the 22nd, so it's after graduation, right? Just,
Hmm.
therefore it was a joint. Wasn't 18, it was 16. Yeah, but it was a joint graduation party as well, and I got $800. Now I gotta understand. I'm surrounded by rich people in my family, but they're New Englanders, Yankees.
Yeah.
to be more
Yeah, wasps.
specific.
Yep,
Yes, they don't give money away to anybody.
that's right.
So that's a lot of money from that point of view.
It's a lot of
And
words to say they're basically the worst people on the planet, but go on.
what have you. But they did build the modern world. You can all say thank you to me now. Go
No,
ahead.
no,
I'm waiting.
I won't be doing that.
But anyway, and immediately, even during the party, it's still going on. My mom said she wanted to talk to me because I just got all these envelopes with money, and she asked me for it.
Mm,
And you know what I did? You want to know what I did?
gave it to her.
Oh yeah, dumbass.
You
Did I ever get it
only
back?
get one mama.
Hmm? No, I
You
did
only get
not.
one mama. Some of
Yeah.
us strike out.
Hmm. Yeah.
Some of us, get a walk on double. It's fine.
Yeah.
Some of us get beamed by the ball.
That's true.
So
That's true. That is true. You do
you
get
only
beamed
get
by the
one though.
ball. You only get one. No, that's true. But yeah, no, and I never, of course, I haven't been back in decades, and I probably never will be. But there was some other thing. My family, my mom's family, which is huge, gigantic family, right?
Hmm.
They didn't like my dad for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what he did or what he said. I don't know. He's a Southern boy. He's literally from the heart of the Confederacy, right, in Mobile.
Hmm.
And Yeah, I don't know what he did or said, but he did something that kind of that pissed them off. They don't really care for him. And to be fair, pissing off a New Englander is not kind of hard. It's kind of easy.
Mm.
I mean, the Yankees are cold, hard nosed, kind of
Evil.
bastards. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, they're evil. That's fine.
yeah, yeah. It's okay. I've been traveling around. I've picked up the Islander feel.
Uh-oh.
I'm an Islander Yankee.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But I didn't learn the laziness though. That would have been useful.
Is Japan considered islands,
Well,
or
I
is it just
I lived in
what is?
Polynesia for 7 years. That's what I mean.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
No, no, no. Don't say one like that to a Japanese. They'll literally slap you. Yeah.
I mean, the mainland's right there, and it's pretty big.
Well, one thing the Japanese will do is if you ask them any questions, serious question, why do you guys suck at this or something like that, right? You ask
Yeah.
them a straight question, right? They always the first thing comes in their mouth. Well, we're an island. It's like, well, that didn't stop the British much.
Nope.
Didn't stop the Greeks very much,
Nope.
etc., etc.
Didn't
But
stop the Polynesians from sailing across the Pacific.
No, well, they're Chaldeans. Shh,
Wow. Shh, it's a secret.
shh, don't tell anybody. But they always do. It's their knee jerk reaction. We're an island. I mean, as if that explains anything, right? What does that mean? The reason why
It's
you
there.
guys
It's
are the
there because we're black. That's what it is.
oh, fair, fair. But I mean, the Japanese are the only ones in the Orient. I'll be more specific, that can actually make war. And it's
Yeah.
probably because you're on an island, You're successful because you're on an island. Island people have to figure out shit in a better, a more practical manner than the people living in the lap of luxury, right?
Yes.
O- On land
Well,
and
they
such.
also had a their feudalistic states were very
They did.
similar to the European ones, and they fought over everything.
They did.
And because of that, they became pretty good at it.
They
It's
did.
what happens.
They did.
And somehow China, the place where everybody gives, the art of war and da da da, they've been around forever,
Oh,
but
they
they're
suck
only
at
ever
war.
been good at fighting themselves.
Yeah, no, they
That's
suck
it.
at war. They're shit at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them are. The Orient is not good. The Indians, of course, are Asians, but they're interesting. The Indians, they're not very good at war either, but they do make the best weapons, though. Isn't that interesting? Like the best sword you could ever find, the most high end sword craft in history is India.
Yep.
It's not Damascus. It's not, the Middle East. They were pretty badass too. And the Europeans, they could do a little bit here or there as well. But the Indians,
The European swords especially were designed more for function than they were for like multiple practical purposes
yeah,
than they
yeah, they
were
were
for
more
just war.
practical. Yeah,
Right? The other ones are designed for war, and that's why they're fantastic at it. But most swords were considered more of a sidearm in Europe, right? They were more for defense or for point to point situations. They weren't necessarily for war. Obviously, you could use them for that, but that's not how they looked at it. They used
no
spears and
spears,
clubs and
stuff
other
like
things
that.
for
Yeah, that's
war.
true.
Yeah,
Well, and to be fair, the Indian swords are very specialized. They're highly specialized,
yeah,
to the point that you can't. The majority of these fantastic weapons, the like I use the I should say Hindi, not India, but that the Hindis created. You can't just pick it up and use it though, because they are incredibly specialized.
right.
Where anybody can pick up a hand and a half sword and swing it. Anybody.
And just swing it. You
Yeah,
just got to
yeah,
swing it.
yeah.
It's just basically a sharp club. Just
Yeah.
swing it.
Although Liam Neeson did teach us how to use it properly
Yes. I mean,
twice.
you can go watch HEMA tournaments and stuff of people trying to
Yep.
recreate
I used to
historical
do that.
European martial arts, and we don't fully know everything that they did or didn't do. And obviously, I don't think anybody today is
Well,
going to even have remotely the skill of an actual
no,
master
that
from
we do
back
have a
then.
lot of books though.
We have a lot of books, but it's books.
Yeah,
You can only
yeah,
learn so much from a book.
it's true.
Um, Whereas a lot of the Eastern stuff has been carried on through tradition. Now a lot of it's nonsense, most of it's nonsense, but it exists in a physical real way because people have carried it through time. Whereas like you've said, the Europeans for whatever reason lose our history every few thousand years and wipe it
We
all the way
do.
out and start over.
We
It's
do.
very weird.
I
It's a
blame the
very weird thing.
dragons.
It's probably the
Yeah,
dragons. They
it's
have
definitely the
eventually they
dragons.
wake up and they're like, all right, that's enough.
That's
And
enough
they
of
just take
you.
us out. Yep,
Enough of
burn
you.
everything.
Yeah.
And then we come back and we're like, what happened?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened over here?
That's true. It is true. But no, of course, if your life is not actually on the line, you're not going to truly master anything. That's true. But they're having fun. It's just fun. Sport, so
Well, these guys were professional soldiers a lot. Like,
that's
well, I'm
true.
not talking about peasant soldiers. I'm talking about the actual knights and things. These guys, that was their life,
It
was
was
was was military and
from
being in the
childhood. Yeah.
military war. So I mean, it's just like Tiger Woods. The reason why he was so good at golf, he did it from he was like time he was 2. Of
Yeah.
course, he was good at it. You better be damn good at it. You've been doing it
Right.
that long. Um, but these guys were like that. They'd been doing it pretty much since birth.
Hmm.
And of course, they would have been the best of them would have just smoked the best of today. I
Oh,
honestly
of
believe
course.
that. Yeah.
That's of course that's true. Has is Tiger still canceled?
I don't know. Tiger's a strange man. He's a very successful man in his field,
Yeah.
probably the best to ever
Yep.
do it, or at least up in that conversation. But he's a very strange man. He heard his when his after his dad died, the man just broke. So I don't know if he's still canceled. Probably. But he's one of those guys. I think if he could get his groove back, like for real, I don't think anybody care. Even the people, the people who screech about that would just get ignored because he's a superstar. He's
He
one of
is.
those type
He's a
of
good golf
people
player.
who,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, things just slide off of him. He's kind of like our boy Trump. Trump, for all his faults, he's just Teflon. Things just
He is the
slide right off of
Teflon
him.
Don. That is true.
Yeah.
Alan hit it right on the head, though. He says
Uh-oh.
if you use a Final Fantasy sword, you can double as a Boeing 747. That's true.
That's true. You could
That is
literally
true.
fly like
That's true.
Icarus. Just take
That's
right
true.
off.
Mm, mm. I was looking for. I had another idea for my Sims game, and I wanted to kind of do like a Star Trek theme. They're hiding on Earth in one of those time loop thingies, right?
Mm.
So I was looking for Star Trek uniforms, and I wanted Andorians.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted the blue. You can do. I got the skin color already; it's already in the game. But I needed a little antennae thing, right? So I was
Mhm.
searching, Sims for Star Trek, Sims for Andorian, to get little clothing swaths and put them on. You can play little theme games, right? Like I did a
Yeah.
superhero one there for a while, which was fun. But it's just Sims. That's a game. But whilst I was doing that, I clicked on, and I did find what I was looking for. Nice. right? And they actually had options. They had the original, original series Andorian antennae. They had the perfected one in Enterprise, and then the dumbass one from Discovery. I mean, I really want to slap that guy because Discovery sucked balls, but we already perfected the Andorians. We didn't need to mess with it. It's like the Klingons, JJ.
Mm,
The Klingons were already perfected. We didn't need to touch it.
yeah,
Did you see what those assholes and
I,
STD did to the frickin' Andorians?
I saw it. Yeah, I saw all of it, and this is why it'll never be canon because I reject it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
just shuffle it all away. Go. What was the
Yep,
last Picard movie there? Nemesis or whatever it was,
Nemesis. Yep,
something like that. That's the last one. We haven't had
yep.
anything good since. But anyway, I was looking and I found what I was looking for. But on the same page, because he mentioned Final Fantasy, I saw Cloud.
Oh,
Maybe because he has white hair. Maybe Andorians have white hair, right?
sure.
Um, um, anyway, they had Cloud, and I was like, huh, Cloud. I don't really interested in Final Fantasy, but it was. But I looked at it and it was very very strange, and I clicked on it, and then it gave me a whole bunch of other Cloud stuff. Why? Excuse me, someone help me. Why are there so many weirdos on the internet that are trying to, what's the word you guys taught me years ago? Ship
Chip. Yep.
Cloud and Tifa,
Sephiroth. Oh, Tifa.
which makes sense, but in the opposite direction.
What do you mean?
I really don't want to mention it on.
I don't know why there's so many people who are obsessed with Cloud. I just Final Fantasy VII might be the most overrated game of all time. Honestly,
Yeah, I'm
unironically,
not a
that's a
big
true
fan.
belief I have. Six is way better, way better. It's not even close. Um, and I would say 10 is way better too, personally.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've never understood the love that that game gets. Truly don't get it. It's not good. Sorry, it's just not a good game. It's not a bad game, but it's
Hmm.
definitely not a good game.
Yeah,
And especially considering that six came right before it, and it's an absolute masterpiece.
yeah. Well,
So
and mentioning, it's just so weird. They really want to effeminize Cloud. It seems to be he's
yes,
been very effeminized, which I don't know, but he never struck. I mean, it's a Japanese, anime style, so they're always feminine looking. But he
oh
never
yeah,
came across as effeminate to me.
no,
But it's like that's weird, dude. But the thing, going back to the Andorians though, is I don't know what the Star Trek Discovery people were thinking. Of course, we can ask that question on every single solitary point.
yes.
But why the Andorians were perfected in Enterprise because Jeffrey Combs deigned them with his presence. One of the best characters that Star Trek has ever had, dude.
Well, the problem is it was on Enterprise, and
Shut up!
aside from
Shut
a
up!
small people,
Shut up!
select people,
Shut up!
everybody hates that show.
No, that's an awesome. It's the best Star Trek, dude. It's the best
No,
Star Trek. I know you don't like the song, but you can't throw it all away
I
because
can't.
you don't like song.
I can't.
Baby
I am.
bathwater Thundero.
I am. That baby is going right out with the tub. Get out
Damn
of
it.
here. Get out of here.
No, I love Star Trek Enterprise, dude. It is the
No,
best.
the last season is actually really good, but the first three seasons, I'm not a fan of it all.
Yeah. Well, I liked the bare bones because they really captured what they were trying to do, though. And maybe people
Yep.
weren't interested in that, but they were trying to say this is before Kirk and his crew. This is us trying to get there, and they
Right.
really encapsulated that really well. Maybe some people didn't care for Travis. I thought T'Pol, was that her name? The Vulcan girl. I thought she was good. The doctor, the alien doctor was amazing. Such a good character. But yeah, later on when Combs came in as playing an Andorian general, things really took off, though, dude. I mean, but then every time he's on screen, I mean, that guy. And the
Oh,
funny thing is his whole career is TV and B movies. He's one of the best actors we've ever had, and he's never been in anything substantial.
he probably doesn't kiss the right asses.
Maybe not. But because
Um,
Jeffrey Combs is awesome.
I think the main reason people dislike Enterprise, besides the ones who are like me, who are immediately turned off by the whole tone of it because of that stupid fucking song,
Fair.
is the storylines. They just didn't. I don't know. They didn't have that. It was after, because that came out right before Nemesis, right, and then went on a few years after Nemesis came out. But
Maybe.
they had it was in that era where the storylines of all Star Trek, even the movies, was just kind of dumb. Like, what made Star Trek good is it was smart. It had an intelligent way of telling stories, especially for what the premise is, and it did a very good job. Like, obviously TNG, some of its classic episodes are still remembered for largely because Patrick Stewart's an absolute boss when it comes to acting.
Oh
But
yeah, that show was awesome. Yeah.
it was because of the storylines that people remember it. His acting was great and all, and that's fantastic. But it was everything around him propped him up to make
Right.
that acting
And
even better.
and it was very Star Trek. It was very
Yes,
Star Trek, which the Abrams verse, which I know they have a name for it, but I don't care. Doesn't understand
Kelvin or something.
Gene. What? What do you say?
Isn't it like the Kelvin timeline or something
Kelvin
like that?
timeline. Yeah, that's it. No, at least he had the sense to make it an else world. But
Yes,
Gene Roddenberry's whole premise of Star Trek was humanity has gotten to a utopian state,
we
right?
figured it out.
Figured
We
it
did it.
out, and they're going out into the universe, and they're still having to deal with the old nonsense and
Yes,
how a utopian humanity does so. And the original series did it really well. I say TNG did it better, right?
I think so too.
But
I
even
think
though I love
Picard's
Kirk,
better. I love Kirk too, but I think Picard's a better character for that goal.
he is. No, he
Kirk
is.
is
Yeah,
much more of a cowboy,
a
right?
little
He's a
bit,
cowboy. He's an old school pioneer out here exploring, and that's fine
which is
because
what he
the
was
the
supposed to
idea
be. Yeah,
exactly that's the idea of that time. Everything's still
right.
very new at this point. They're still out here, really, really exploring. They haven't set up all the staunchness of the
Yeah,
the rigidity of the Starfleet that comes later. They
right.
have very much less strict guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Whereas
and that's
TNG, they've
the
hammered a lot of that out
they
by that time.
100%, and to the point that they have episodes like with the little alien girl that finds out about him, and they have the doctor, which wasn't Beverly Crusher at that time, but
That
had the
was the old white
doctor,
lady.
little church lady,
Mhm.
wipe her memory. That's harsh, dude.
Yep.
Right? But yeah,
Yep.
no, you're right. So, when you look at it, Picard is the best captain,
I
right?
agree.
And Cisco is the best commander. No,
Yep.
but you can't argue that. But because he's not
But
really a
Kirk
captain.
is Star Trek.
Kirk is
Like, he's the
Star Trek.
spirit of it.
He is.
Yeah.
But the thing with Enterprise is the fact that they haven't got there yet. They're not
Right.
utopian yet. Keep in mind, Cochrane, the creator of warp drive for the humans, is still alive.
Yes.
That actor from the movie is in the early episodes as they're launching. He actually does a video gumbate or good luck to you type of thing. So we haven't got there. And keep in mind with Cochrane, where the world is really messed up because we just came out of World War III, right? In
Yeah,
the
and
setting,
everything's destroyed.
it's busted up. So we hadn't got to the utopian state yet, right? And I think that the Enterprise encapsulates that really well, and Archer does a really good job of
Archer's great.
navigating. Yeah, he navigating it and bringing us to the Prime Directive, bringing us
And
to the creation of the Federation. And
explaining why that's important, right? That's
exactly,
one of the things they had to do because it was always just taken as this is the rule in Star Trek. You don't break this rule. This is the rule, which they break it often, but you're not supposed to break this rule. This is
right?
the rule. This is the main law of our entire organization, and this is why.
Yeah,
Basically, that's what Enterprise is supposed to be. This is why
yeah.
you do this.
But
Um, and I appreciate that. It's just I just don't think it's kind of like the prequels. I will say to the end that the prequels are a good story. They're just told terribly.
Yeah,
They're not
they
told
weren't
well.
told properly. The story's
Yeah,
fine. But
yeah.
no, that's true. But because of this, and because of the actor playing Scott Bakula, playing Archer, that's my favorite captain.
He's good.
Yeah,
I
I
like
really
Bakula.
like
I've always
Archer.
liked Bakula.
Yeah, he really you can feel the struggle in him, where Kirk
Mm.
just gets to a point, fuck it.
Right.
Kirk gets to that point, right? And he just, where Archer never does. He's always in turmoil of his choices, and you can see it.
Mm.
But yeah, I really like that. But one of the things I really loved about it as well is, since the original series, we've had good captains and individual characters, but we haven't had a great number two,
Mm.
right? Or number one, as TNG would say. Riker's kind of shit. He
You don't
just
like
is.
Riker, huh?
Nah, fuck Riker, dude. Um, you know, where
That was my mother's favorite character, mainly because he had a beard. She didn't like him when he didn't have the beard, but once he got the beard, she was like, "Oh, she
I
was in
see.
love." 'Cause
Okay,
he had the right build. He was built very much like my father. Bigger guy, the beard. He had that energy, that charisma about him. She
I
loved her
never
some Riker.
cared
But
Riker. He
I
poses
think
with
that's
his
what he
dick
was
forward
for.
to the camera. He literally poses with his dick to the camera. Literally.
Listen, he knows his job. His job is
It's
to make
fair.
the older lady swoon, and
That's
he did it.
fine. He
It
did.
was
He
successful.
did. He's like his damn bikini.
He was
But
there to replace Kirk, right? Because Kirk
yeah,
was
but
the pretty boy of his time,
yeah, but
and
that's
he
a
was there to fill
discount
that
version.
role. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
but I mean,
Picard was definitely never that.
well, no, but no, but Picard was perfect for what he was supposed to be, though. He was an
Yep,
actual, flagship captain of a
career military
utopian,
man.
a utopian state. So you can't argue Picard's the best captain. It doesn't matter whether he's your favorite; he is the best actual captain.
I agree.
But the thing with Kirk, though, is he had several great characters around him who you loved, and most importantly, Bones and Spock.
Yep.
He had that, but he also had the nurse, which is Gene Roddenberry's wife, by the way. He had
Mm.
Uhura. He had Scotty. He had whatever those two little weird dudes up front were, right? Um, but I'm just saying, Chekhov and Sulu. But
Yep.
he had this great supporting cast around him. If you go to TNG, I do like it. But who does Picard got? He's got freaking Riker. He's got the girl who was known for taking her clothes off in B movies. Boy, she got
Deanna Troy.
lucky, huh?
Yeah.
You had annoying God, shut up, Beverly Crusher and her stupid kid. God, why
Yep.
didn't someone airlock that kid? Um,
He
it
did
wa-
have Worf though, and Worf is awesome.
well, yeah, Worf, but they found that people liked Worf, and they kind of eventually moved him in a position because they had Tasha Yar, right?
Yes,
And
I like Tasha,
yeah,
but
eh,
they
she
killed
didn't
her.
like it.
So
Yeah, no, she wanted
yeah,
out. She wanted out,
right.
right? But it was made room for Worf because he came out to be a really popular character. It's kind of like
Yeah.
in SG1, Tilk was a very,
Yep.
kind of
Who is
beloved by
going
the.
to be Darkseid, by the way. Spoiler, that's he was cast as
Oh
Darkseid in
well,
the
that's
new.
perfect voice. Yeah, he'll do a good
That's
job.
perfect. He's
Yeah,
perfect.
he's
He's
perfect.
got the build, he's everything.
Yeah.
He's great casting. I will tell you to the end, James Gunn's casting has never been his problem. He is
No,
fantastic at
no,
finding the
he's
right
good at that.
cast. He has other problems though. There's other issues, but he's fantastic at
But
picking the right people for the job.
and when we look at, I don't really count Deep Space Nine because it really doesn't fit within this story. It's a different
Mm,
thing, and it's amazing. It's incredible. It's probably the best writing they've ever had. But
probably.
you had Cisco. Who did Cisco have? The
O'Brien.
O'Brien, I guess. But
And a
he's
lot of
kind of a
people liked
discount Scotty, though. He's not
yeah,
Spock.
pretty much. Pretty much. A lot of people like the girl whose name I can't remember right now.
The
Um,
Dax,
well, no, not that. Well, Dax too, but the
the
other one.
Bajoran,
The
you mean the
yeah,
annoying
yeah,
one who never shut up that
yeah,
you wanted to
yeah,
airlock? That one?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that, but I know a lot of people loved her character. I don't know why. But they did,
It
and
was
eventually they got Quark to something besides being
They
just
did. They did
sleazeball.
improve him. You're right.
They worked on
And
him, yeah.
Odo. I mean, it's a great show. It really is. Probably the best of them. Just the writing is. They did such a great job with that
I
show.
would say the writing's the best. I still think TNG's a better show overall, though.
Maybe.
Mainly because
Maybe.
I think Patrick Stewart's acting just as good as Cisco got, he just never quite touched for me anyway. That there are four lights line. That whole episode, 2 episode arc is some of the best sci-fi ever made. Period. It's so good. It's so good. You got Jellicoe in there who took his place while he's been captured. He's being interrogated, and the whole thing's great. I love that whole. They had like in TNG they had what really they only had like 2 or 3 really good seasons, and then they just had bright spots in the other seasons. But that run they did with the Kardashians, which obviously is one of the reasons why they were so impressive later on in Deep Space Nine, is because of what they did with Picard. I would say
Maybe.
in Next Generation. But almost all the I would say I'm
That's
trying
true,
unless I'm
Alan.
forgetting one. All the Cardassian episodes in the Next Generation are great too.
At
Like they're
least you didn't
just
say Kardashian. I swear to God,
no
dude. Uh,
Cardassian.
Cardassian. Yes. Not large fat ass women. Yeah. Um. And a gay man who used to be an
But
American
that
hero
I
until he
would be
murdered someone and
fine.
decided to put on a goddamn dress.
He did
Anyway,
murder someone. That's true. I would be fine with giving DS9 that crown. It's just for me personally, I like TNG better.
yeah, no,
But
no, I'm not
DS9
talking
is
about. I'm talking
fantastic.
about logistically, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I like I said, Enterprise is my favorite, but you cannot deny Deep Space Nine, dude. That thing, they did a good job with that show. But my to
The
finish
only
my point,
problem I have with it is it drifted away from Roddenberry's original vision of a much more episodic structure, meaning a monster of a week type show,
right?
and into just a straight up serial, which is fine. They did amazing with it, but
Mhm.
it's not. That's why I think you're right when you say you kind of put that in its own
I
thing
do
because it
because it's
became its own
different.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they did too. It was really I consider a spin-off.
yeah.
And the actor I don't know his name offhand, but damn dude, Cisco. That guy playing Cisco
Um.
was a really good actor,
Oh,
dude.
come
He
on.
killed it.
He's a weird dude, though. If you ever seen him give an interview out, he's like, I don't know if there's something wrong with his brain or what, but he's a strange cat.
Yeah, no,
But he can
I
act.
don't know anything about that, but he can act. He does a really good job. But to finish the point though, and this new shit, I'm not watching that shit, dude. I ain't
No.
watching none of that because it's all crap. I watched a few of the JJ movies, and then I saw what they were doing in Discovery when it first was coming out. I was like, oh, okay, cool, but oh my god, talk about just foot right in it, dude.
Yep.
But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But the thing with Archer is, other than Kirk, he's the only one that had a really, really strong co-star with him,
Mm,
in the Doctor, right?
right.
That alien Doctor, what was his name? Neelix? No, it's not Neelix. That's Voyager.
No,
We
that
forgot,
yeah, that's
completely dropped Voyager there, didn't we?
as we should, because oh,
Fine.
too
But I
much.
mean, it had its moments though. I watched the whole thing.
It did, but what it ended up doing to the Q and the Borg, oh god,
Well, one thing it did I thought was a little bit interesting is it did Avery Brooks. Thank you very much, Grimlock.
yeah, that's his name. Yep.
Yeah, that guy kills it, dude. But one of the things that they did with Voyager is they did rob, in a non-direct manner. They wrapped up a lot of storylines, though, right?
Yep.
For instance, the whole thing of where are the Borg from? What are the Borg? Well, the Voyager gave us that, and they gave it to us in pieces. I don't know if it was planned that way or if it just happened that way. But it ultimately found out that because we're talking about Archer here, and the NX-01, the precursor to 1701 Enterprise, right?
Mm,
A. But the thing that people may not have noticed or maybe not remembered, there were two of those NX class ships. There was the
mhm.
Enterprise and there was the Columbia, right? And the Columbia was helmed by, and this is back in a time when they were not afraid to do storytelling. The Columbia was there was a female captain, but not because she was female. She was just the actress they chose. It wasn't, Star Trek has always been kind of that way, right?
Sure.
And Archer went in and he had a conversation with her because she was asking questions. So, how do you think who would be good to be on my crew? Because on those smaller ships, they only have a crew of 88, right? It's not
Right.
like the several hundred crew on the larger ships.
The
And he,
Enterprise D is over 1,000.
oh yeah, and that's still you can walk around that ship and never see anyone. It's so damn
Right.
huge. They could
Humongous.
have 100,000 people on that ship.
Yep.
But anyway, the he basically said, "Yeah, that doesn't matter. What you really need is more weapons." I mean,
Hmm.
very cut and short to straight, short and sweet, right? And she's, I'm not doing that because I'm an idealist. And of course, she paid the ultimate price for that because
Yep.
they got themselves a lot of problems. They crash landed on the planet. The aliens that were living there were like, yeah, we can't let you leave because we don't want anyone to know we exist. So you're trapped here. Of course, there was rebellion. She decided to agree with it because it's the right thing to do. She's an idealist, right? And of course,
Sure.
many of her crew oppose a mutiny, which ends up destroying the sun, right?
Oh, that little thing.
And killing everything, including desolating the planet. But they were working that high end alien race was working on a project at that time, and when that sun blew up and destroyed the planet, the project got out, the Borg.
Hmm.
So
Woke up.
technically, Enterprise is not it itself, but its sister ship is the inception of the Borg, and Voyager's what wrapped that up. I thought
Yep.
that was pretty cool. But anyway, this is Star. We could talk Star Trek all day.
We could.
We
In
could.
fact, we should have a show about Star Trek
We should.
because I
Star
get
Trek is
very
awesome.
tired of watching uh, far left weirdos try and claim that Star Trek has always been far left, or they call it space communism and stuff. And I'm like, you guys are just dumb. That's just
I
a silly thing to say.
I'd call it progressive. I would.
Yeah, I would
But
too.
in
I'd
the
say
right
it's left
way.
leaning, but it's not far left by any means. And I can tell you this. Here's how
Ooh.
you know that. There's two reasons you know that. One, the prime directive,
Oh yeah,
because lefties can't keep their hands out of nothing.
that's
So they
true.
wouldn't have that prime directive if they were hard left. And the other is apparently everybody's allowed to own firearms. Because I have never seen any restriction on Earth. When every time they went to Earth, somebody's got a phaser. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
no, that's
apparently
true.
that's fine. And they also have, a lot of in communism, they didn't have a lot of things called rights for the individuals. Whereas in Star Trek and Starfleet and the Federation, they absolutely do. They have their own version of the Bill of Rights. They call them the guarantees. Um, and it's so you can't really say it's communism. They talk about it
No,
because they
it's
talk
not
about the
communism. It's
economy.
utopian.
Yes, there's no more want because they solved it. Not because money only exists because we need money. That's the only reason it exists. We need some way to exchange our time for other people's goods and services without doing it directly. Otherwise, we'd all have to barter or literally work for every little thing we get, like we did before we invented currency to stand in for that.
Right.
It's a tool. That's all it is. But eventually, technology, we hope anyway, that's what Star Trek's supposed to be about, will get to the point where we don't need it anymore.
Right.
We
That's
don't
the
simply don't
idea.
need
We can make it. We can take a step forward. So
it. Yes.
yeah, it's actually utopian, and that's not a bad thing. And
Yes.
one other thing they really did a good job with the Enterprise, because this is the thing, they used to care. They used to know
Yep.
the product and read it and study it and be able to bring things around, like we've mentioned several times already, right? And like if you look at TNG, or even with Kirk, but especially with TNG, because we saw Earth a lot more, right?
Hmm.
Because Kirk, he's 5-year mission and all. But um, it is utopian. It doesn't
Yes.
matter that people have phasers on their belt because there is no crime
Right. They're
to
very,
speak of.
very, very little. It's
It's very
extremely
rare.
rare. Yeah, it's like
But
Japan, basically.
yeah, it
Very
is,
rare.
and good on them. But in
Yep.
Enterprise, you see there is still problems. right? There's
Yes.
still races, there's still issues that we haven't worked out yet. And they do a good job of showing that. Now, what happens with a JJ verse here? And all the shit that's come behind, and someone said Picard's not technically part of the Kelvin Prime. Fuck you, it is, right?
Might as well be.
It is. Because, what did they do? They took the utopian away. The government's
Yep.
corrupt. Everyone's trying to steal. Everyone's corrupt. Everyone's undermining everyone. Crimes
Everyone's
everywhere.
vulgar,
Revolt, destruction. Really?
everyone's very vulgar too, right? Like,
Vulgar,
yeah,
violent. It's
I don't
kind of
like
like
that.
our world.
Yeah.
You kind of missed the point, didn't you, there, lefties?
Which is why I would argue it's not a lefty. It's not really leftist. Now, compared to where when it came out, especially, it was very much, very, very much lefty at the time. But
I'm
I
talking
would
about the new
say the
stuff, dude.
I know I would say the spirit of real Trek, not this not new nonsense, is not trying to push any kind of political ideation. It's just showing you a potential future. What could the future look like if we get rid of need? Which is possible with the right technology. If we could produce basically unlimited energy and use that energy to then manipulate matter to just make matter out of thin air, make what or manipulate it to whatever we need it to be, is technically possible. Now the amount of energy we would need is astronomical, but if we ever got there, it's possible.
Oh, we could
Their
do a lot of
explanation
things if
for
we had
yeah,
resource-based society. We could do a lot of things, actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
their explanation for warp drive is theoretically possible. Uh, with the warp bubbles, that's actually theoretically possible.
sure.
Whether or not it's doable in the real world is that's the real question. But the
Well,
theory
you're
is possible.
you're assuming that Einstein and his theory of the movement of light is accurate. You're
Correct.
taking kind of a big leap right there.
Correct.
And all our modern science fiction has been based upon E equals mc squared,
Yep.
and the various sciences put forward by Einstein. The problem is that we know that light is not constant. Matter of
It's
fact,
true.
scientists have demonstrated that they can actually stop light. They can freeze it in space.
Hmm.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So light
Hmm.
is not a constant. Therefore, if light is not a constant, which we know it isn't because it's been scientifically proven that it isn't, then therefore the time dilation problem with time dilation of faster than light travel is null and void. Is it not?
Correct. Correct.
So,
But my
science
point
fiction
is,
types want to be science fictiony, but yeah, maybe we should step past that a little bit.
my point though is that they have misconstrued, obviously, because look at what they're making now, what Star Trek ever was. It was not designed to be a platform for Roddenberry to preach his message. This is
No,
just the world he hoped would become. These are different things. That'd be like saying that the only reason why Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings is because he wanted to promote traditional Catholic or well, I guess he'd be Anglican values or something like that.
right?
No,
No,
that's not what he was doing at all.
he had a
It,
lot.
it's
He was wanting to tell the
it,
story.
yeah, he wanted exactly. He wanted to tell a story. He wanted to give the peoples of England some kind of mythological something to work with. And Roddenberry was kind of doing the same thing. It wasn't about pushing some kind of narrative for him. I've seen no evidence to suggest that. And even if it was, what came from it was clearly not doing that. I remember in the 90s in Deep Space Nine, they had a very pro conservative religious episodes because the Bajorans were very conservative religious people. So they had to tell their
That's
story
true.
fairly. So they had to make it, come out like what they're saying is at least rational and reasonable, even though to the people in the Federation, it's basically nonsense because they're a very atheistic bunch. Um, I love that. I thought that's something that you just won't see them do today.
Yeah,
There's no
they did a
way
good
they could
job
have
too.
that balance. Yeah, they did a
They
great
did a
job.
really good job. Paul Moore, the little chubby fat Italian lady,
Yep.
the British lady who was on Blackadder. Well, anyway, the priestess lady, for the Bajoran
Right.
lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I know you're
she
talking about.
was, what a great character. What a dynamic and deep character. That's the reason why Deep Space Nine gets all the accolade it does, because every character has a deep arc. There's
Yep.
so much character built into that show. I mean, even you mentioned with the Ferengi there. What's his name?
Pork.
Cork. Yeah. What an amazing character arc he had.
Yep.
Right? And he's just some little dude on promenade just to add color, really. Think about the so-called Cardassian Taylor, the undercover spy. What a great character that was.
Yep.
There's so many of them, dude. I mean, and Gul Dukat. What a great. I mean, God, that
Oh,
show was so badass, dude.
he's so good, Golden Cut, because you almost sympathize with him at some point because you
Yeah,
you can kind of see how, yeah, he's a bastard, but he was also in a terrible situation, right? Like he was in a terrible situation. Granted, he often made it worse, but you kind of sympathize with him a little bit in some of those episodes because of the way they tell the story, which
yeah.
is obviously what they wanted you to do, have a little
Yeah.
sympathy for the devil, but he's still the devil, right? He's still the
He
bad
is the
guy.
devil, dude. He immolated Dax. He immolated her, and she was one
Yes.
of the even though it's a weird ass character, old boy, old man.
Hmm.
She was wicked sexy, dude.
Oh yeah.
That girl, whoa, what a smoke show. But she was a good actress too, and a very interesting, different, weird character, right? The Talaxian. Um,
Hmm.
and uh, and he literally immolated her in the temple, dude, on Deep
Yep.
Space Nine. Jesus, I mean,
Brutal.
oh, he's such a bastard, beautiful bastard. And they had little side things like the little solar sailing ship episode. That was great
So
with
good.
he and his son. Oh my god, it was such a good show.
So good. It's and that's the problem is nowadays, for whatever reason, whether intentional or not, I would say it is. They've completely misinterpreted why Star Trek worked. That episode right there is the perfect encapsulation of why Star Trek works.
Yep,
Them and they knew it.
adventure.
They knew what they were making.
Yeah,
That's exactly what they were trying to do. Was to take the entire premise of the whole franchise and put it in one episode with just a boy and his dad out there sailing in the stars.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the idea. Is you're out there sailing, you're out there exploring, you're out there trying something. Um, that's the idea. Is the aspirationalism of that, and the fact that they have the play on the characters and everything that happens. And da, da, da. I'm not going to go through the whole episode. If you've never seen it, go watch it. It's fantastic. Um,
it is good.
the achievement, the triumph that they experience and that they feel, all of that is everything that Star Trek is. It
Yeah,
is not a political commentary. It uses political commentary to get to its point. And its point is we can be better than this. We don't have to be this. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to end up exactly the way Gene Roddenberry prophesied. He got a lot of shit right, though. Um, but it's going to, but the point is, that's the entire overarching narrative. That's the moral of this story. And
right.
that's what Gene understood. He had a moral to his story. These new people don't.
Yeah.
They have nothing
Well,
but agenda. That's it.
he had the idea that if humanity was unshackled from the need for energy and wealth,
Yes.
that the humanity would pursue their personal desires to become an
Yes.
artist, to become a great engineer, to become an
Excellence.
explorer, to become excellent. That's
Yep.
where he what he envisioned. And aside from the original show and being a little bit of a wagon train in space,
Yes.
it's just a brilliant idea, and it was taken forward through 5 shows really well, and then
Yep.
some asshole was given hands over on it,
And
uh,
turned it
and
into Star Wars.
and turned it into Star Wars, which is very political, a
Yes.
completely different space opera type of fantasy. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't know, dude.
I would say Star Trek is much more science fiction. It is much more the
It
classic
is.
explorer trope of exploring space, science fiction, all that. And obviously, Star Wars is more science fantasy. It's obviously designed to be more, have a bigger scope, be more. It's literally called Star Wars. It's about conflict and war.
It
Star
is.
Trek is
Yeah.
not. It's about what's out there and what happens when we get out there. and it's also about what it takes to be there, right? It's aspirational. Star Wars is not designed to be aspirational. It's he's telling a story in a galaxy he created, a universe he created, but it's not designed to be
Mm.
this. Hey, we could be this one day. I don't think we're ever going to adopt force powers as a species.
No,
Maybe we
probably not.
will, but I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Alan puts the kibosh on everything, though. He says, I'm waiting for
Oh,
the SS George Floyd to be a ship. It's fueled on fentanyl.
oh no.
Give him time, dude. I mean, the nonsense they're doing, like, people say, "Oh, the new season of Picard is really good." And it's like, So I have to go through how many seasons of bad to get to good? But
Yes.
I watched a little clip from it, and they're walking onto the bridge of the new Titan, the the hero ship of the show, and
Hmm.
good looking ship. They, of course, they've never had trouble with that, really. Immediately I saw the bridge, and everybody on it was female.
Of course. They've listen. They've grown beyond the need for the male gender.
It
They no
seems,
longer require the male gender
yeah.
for anything.
And I saw a couple clips of the captain, who's a man,
Yeah.
kinda, but he's grumpy and asshole-ish and
Well,
a
I mean, he is on a
failure,
ship full of women. Holy crap!
waiting
I mean,
well, but he's a failure is the point, and 7
of
of
course.
9 is basically going to be the captain, I am by the but within a couple episodes, I am sure.
Yeah.
But whatever, I was like, "Yeah, no, thank you. No, I'm done.
And
I'm
it's such a
done."
shame because Star Wars and Star Trek, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, were generational
Oh, yeah,
and multi generational. It
extremely
was
so.
one of the only things that my parents and I, Star Trek especially, my parents and I could all enjoy together. And we'd go to the movies together. There was nothing else like that. The only other one was Star Wars. My father and I would go see that. But otherwise, there was nothing else like it. And it's just so that's why it's so deeply personal to me, and I'm sure to millions and millions of other people, what they've done to it. It's a slap in the face because it's not that anyway. I don't know who it's made for anymore. I guess people in San Francisco like it. I don't know, but it's not made for that anymore. It's not made to be great family entertainment anymore. It's made for something else, and I just have no interest in it. It's kind of like recently the people who made Baldur's Gate 3 decided to put some joke in there where you could have sex with a bear. It's a joke. It's supposed to be a joke, but immediately I'm like, I'm out. I'm good. I don't want to play that game because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the constant, endless barrage of
Yeah,
degeneracy.
and
I'm sick
unfortunately,
of
that's
it.
Larian Studios, and they've done a pretty
Yeah.
good job so far. But
Yeah, I like
they have
Larian,
the
but
brain worms as well.
I'm just like,
Yeah,
nah, I'm good.
yeah.
I'm out. I have no interest in that. I don't know if it's maybe probably because I'm just older now. When I was younger, I would have thought that was hilarious, I guess. And it is kind of funny, especially the scene itself is kind of funny. But I just have no interest. I have no interest in that sort of stuff anymore in my in my entertainment, I guess. I'm looking for somebody, anybody, to give me something wholesome and pure. Anyone. And it just seems like everyone's
Well,
just, nah, we're good.
we did have the Sound of Freedom,
Yep,
which is probably not a happy movie at all.
it's
It
not.
is a docudrama based upon real life events. It's the thing.
You mean it's not a QAnon wet dream? Because I have reliable sources from the
Uh,
Washington Post and CNN
yeah.
that it's a conspiracy theorist wet dream.
Is it? I don't think it has any of that at all, other than the
No.
lead actor. The thing with Sound of Freedom that's very interesting, and of course, Grimlock has hit right on the head of it, is how many people are hating on this film, and it's very
Yeah.
suspicious.
Telling on themselves. Hmm?
Yeah,
Thou thou does protest too much.
Yes.
I think, yeah. Anyway, let's get into it. Happy times are done.
Happy times are all done. Former Valiant Comics employee calls out the company's bad business practices from our boy JDA.
Now, Yeah, no, John, I haven't spoken to him in a long time. He's still kicking along, man. Good for you, John. But you know, I did a complete rundown over several weeks of Valiant's history, if you recall, right?
Hmm.
I went into great detail, talking about their initial inception, their time under Jim Shooter, the Acclaim purchase, the collapse, the resurgence in 2012 with that really, well, he's an American, but he's got an Indian name, excitement, and then it being bought by a Chinese company with a guy named Dan coming in. And this
Mm.
guy, Dan, from the Chinese company, has completely and obliterated it. Would you like to guess how many books, floppies, by the way, only floppies, how many
Mm.
floppies are coming out monthly? Would you like to guess?
I have no idea.
Yeah, throw a number at me.
Oh, how
Valiant
many
10.
books?
Comics. 10. Okay, 10. Okay. Yeah, books,
I
actual
think I'm
books.
overshooting.
You are, because the actual
Uh,
number is, are you ready? Drum roll, please. Thank you very much, Grimlock. One.
Oh my
one whole
god.
book. So,
Wow.
so it's not
That
Valiant Comics. It's
sounds
Valiant
like
Comic.
a dead company to me.
Right. Now, this guy here, this former employee, was actually in charge of their design and production. His name is Travis S. Fileri. I think you should have an I there, sir. Pretty sure there should be an I. Your family Americanized you when they came over on the boat. But whatever. But Travis, of course, they didn't pay him. He didn't get his last paycheck, so he's not happy about that. But he just kind of lays it all out, dude. They're doing this kind of nonsense. Of course, brought on our hero Heather Antos and all
Oh,
her
of course.
people because when they did this, when the Chinese company bought it, they said, we're going to keep things going along. We are going to bring in some people who are film script writers because we want to put a lot of this into movie stuff. Which, of course, we did see the Vin Diesel movie, which was fun. And everyone left with the Indian dude, and they went and created Bad Idea Comics, which is not. I think it was a bad idea, but anyway, so he had no one. But the production staff, which Travis was part of, so he brought in Heather Antos because that's the thing you do, and she brought all her liberal friends over, and the quality just dropped through the floor. Of course, we already talked about this, and of course, it became ultra, ultra, mega woke because Heather Antos, an absolute hack that has no talent or skill whatsoever. She was literally hired because some dude in the office wanted to fuck her. So
Yep.
much so that he turned her into two characters. Wow. But anyway, Valiant's dead. It's 100% dead. And what a sad, sad state, dude. Because this is a Dan Mintz. This is the new CIO, Dan Mintz. Because this Indian fella, which I can never remember his name, but I know it's Indian. But that dude came in with so much love and excitement. I mean, he was really, really, on fire for it, and you could feel it, and it was so much fun. The reboot in 2012, I was 100% on board. Even though they had a couple of weird things, that's okay. There's plenty of fun stuff to read. Unity was great. I've covered all this, right?
Mhm.
But the thing is, it was allowed to rot by moron executives hiring more of this ESG crap. And now what does this equate to? Valiant is dead again. It just makes me sad, dude. I
It's a
like Valiant.
shame. You know, what would be a good idea, Chester? Wonder how much Valiant is worth with all of its properties. I wonder how much that would be worth to buy, what the price of it would be, because
You know,
I'm sure that's what's going to end up
you
happening
have to
here.
talk to my wife on that shit.
They will have to probably start piecemealing, right? They're
They
gonna
might.
probably at least that, or maybe they can find somebody who will buy it up wholesale.
Well,
Um, but the reason why I'm asking this question is because in this space, there's a few independent guys now who make quite a lot of money, and it
yeah.
could be very interesting
Well,
to snag up a whole company like that.
let me put that question on hold because I do have a kind of answer for it. Before I get to that, though, I do want to point out that they did run a Kickstarter. This is a full-on comic book company, right?
Yep.
Ran a Kickstarter for Eternal Warrior, right, 2 years ago, and the last update they had on it was in March. So you're shit out of luck, folks. You're not going to get that.
Thanks for the money.
Thanks for the money. But how do we respond to that? Well, DMG is a Chinese-owned company. So
Mm.
this is one thing you have to understand, and when so many Western commentators, because there's plenty of Western commentators who take one side of the aisle or the other, right? And if you're on against the mass media and the majority of sound these days in the media anyway, then oh, the West is hating on China. China's great. They're just standing in opposition, and anything the other side says they oppose, right? And that's not the way to be, because not everything your enemy says is actually wrong,
Hmm.
right? And I see a lot of these modern commentators going on about, just, singing beautifully about China, and they're morons. They haven't done their research. They don't understand what they're talking about. China is a shit show. It's a full-on shit show, right?
Yep.
And what you have to understand is this: every company. Let me say that again, Grimlock. Every company in China is owned by the CCP.
Hmm.
Every company. It is illegal to own a company that is not owned by the CCP. Now, do they care a little about mom and pop's little market store on the corner? No, they don't give a shit. The local cops will come and literally steal their stuff, steal their money, and steal their vegetables and all those other things that they might be selling. Sure, the cops will do that. The local authorities will do that. But that's because the CCP has no actual control over anything. It's basically a little bit. There's like 1,000 little baronies across China, and they're out there digging for money because they have to give their taxes to the king. You see, right? But they want their own in their own pocket, and therefore it creates an environment of corruption. Whereas the only way you can survive in China is to be corrupt. There are video after video of cops just coming up and stealing shit out of people's shops. They don't even have put in some kind of weird illusion up like, oh, you're breaking law 2567885. No, they just steal their shit, right? It
So a
happens.
Chinese version of Robin Hood is just what the doctor orders.
Oh my God, a Robin Hood would be great in China right now. It would because the people in China know if they make the wrong kind of noise, they get arrested and disappear for a few months, and they come back, their brains don't work. I don't know exactly what they're doing to them, but they do something to literally break their brains, right? So the Chinese people know this, so they don't. You see some actual protesting, and those people disappear. But they do little things, like for instance, because the CCP has no money because their economy is collapsing, and I knew it would because they've been playing this stupid game for years now, with just printing money and nothing being and no foundation underneath them. A lot of countries like say America or Japan, they print money as well, but they have an actual foundation under them, right? So you can only fall so far. China has nothing. It's a paper tiger, literally, right? And of course, we're seeing the collapse happening now, and it's happening so rapidly. Matter of fact, the past 2 weeks, China is crumbled. It's insane. All the businesses are shutting down, all foreign businesses leaving China. Their ports are empty. Dude, this has happened in an extremely short period of time. So
Usually it
the
does.
the as it usually does, and the CCP has no money, and like I said, they have no control of the baronies that are under them, nor do they give a shit to. right? So these rural baronies are desperate for money because they need money. The big dudes at the top of CCP, they don't need money. They print more. They don't then because it's a fiat currency. It's not real. But the people living underneath it, it's real as shit, right? It's serious. So these local barons are desperate for money. So they're going out and they're just doing anything they can to get more money. So what they've been doing is the police are going out and giving you traffic tickets or just tickets, so civic tickets for any little teeny violation they can think of, anything, right? And one of the big things they've been going after is electric bikes and scooters, right? And partially is probably because it came down from the CCP. No one's buying our electric cars. Take away their vehicles, force them to buy electric cars. Is probably what happened, right? And the local authority have to figure out how they go about that, and this is what they decided to do. So they're stealing everybody's bike, loading them up on trucks, and just throwing them in big lots. No one has anything. They can't get a bike because they're going to get ticketed automatically because these cops want money. So what they did is they started going buying electric wheelchairs because that's protected by law because it's a wheelchair, it's a handicap capable thing.
Oh my.
So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Chinese scooting around the roads every day in electric wheelchairs. It's a type of protest, right?
Oh
It's
fuck!
hilarious though, isn't it? But I mean, this is what's going on in
It
China.
shouldn't be, but it is.
It's hilarious, dude. My wife and I laughed at it when we saw that story. And of course, no one in the West is reporting this. The only reason we know is because we live here in Asia, right? And we both have Chinese capabilities. So her a lot more than me. She's a perfect Chinese speaker, actually. So we can actually watch the Chinese people putting out YouTube videos and other kind of videos talking about the shit that's going on from inside of China, and that's pretty interesting. But how it relates to this, Chinese bought a company. Therefore, the Chinese government owns Valiant, right? Don't misunderstand it. Don't It doesn't matter what the name of that company is. The CCP owns it. So
Mm.
will the CCP sell it? You would think yes, right? Okay, start selling shit off. We need money, desperation type of tactics, right? But that's not how the CCP thinks. For instance, she has decided that because no one's making orders and all the businesses have left China, that instead of being an export country, which is what they've been for decades, because of all the billions of dollars from Western investors, they decided we need to look inward and become an internal economy. Now, in that setting, I don't think CCP would allow it to be sold. I think what you might
My,
see is Valiant become a Chinese comic book company, making Chinese stories about
listen, they
bad
couldn't be any
Whitey.
worse. They
No, it couldn't
couldn't be
be.
any worse.
It couldn't be. It couldn't be. But
I would love for. In fact, you know what? I would actually approve of bad whitey stories coming out of Asia because
yeah,
at least they got a bone to pick.
yeah, sure,
At least they got a bone to pick. Most of the people making the bad whitey stories over here have done nothing but benefit from the presence of whitey
it's true.
and
It
still
is
are
true.
complaining.
It is true. Yeah, it's amazing on that end. But I put this in here because this has nothing to do with heteronormativity. Well, it does in a way because of Anthos. But it's just it's the death knell of something I loved again.
There's been a lot of those
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. But oh god, that hurts. They it
Shall
was
we bring you roses?
Well, 11 years ago, man, it was so exciting, right? The return of Valiant, there was so much energy. It was great, dude. It was great. And my God, you can't even go 11 years.
Can't be
No.
done. First, set photos for Disney's live action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs remake are as disastrous as expected.
Now, did you guys see these? Oh my God.
Yes, and the subsequent banter on Twitter got me put in Twitter jail for it.
Oh, nice. That's good to hear. I'm so proud of you, my little Grimlock. But rumors are coming out that this has been canceled anyway. But nevertheless, we'll talk about it because here's some CG weird version. Why would you, Spencer Macaulay? What are you doing? Why are you choosing this shitty CG thing? Go get the original slide. What are you doing? It's not hard to find. Oh, hold on a second. Give me a second here. Snow White original movie. Let me see. Let's see what happens here. Oh, wow. Way better art. What are you doing? This
Yeah.
CG crap. Look at that. Oh. Anyway, I'm sorry. I lost my cool there for a second.
I saw some of these photos. Let's see them. Let's
All right.
scroll down. Let's take a look at them because they're
So,
big oof.
okay, we have this CG one with Link. This is probably from that Disney game, I think.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Well,
what
there.
am I looking at here? First of all, not only one of them's a dwarf. Start there.
Okay. That's the huntsman
Why?
in the front, I guess.
I why? Why are these men so tall? These are
Well,
not dwarfs.
the one in the back's pretty tall. Then the female, is kind of a female. We got one, two, three blacks. So,
Yeah,
I think everyone's been represented. But of course, we have closer ups here. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Like, I can understand. Okay, the the race swapping argument is it's dumb. They shouldn't do it. But at least they have some kind of a point. What is the point of having dwarves that aren't dwarfs? What are we doing here?
Yeah, because Peter Dinklage said that is racist. I don't know how, but somehow.
So
And that's how
dwarves
he
not
makes his
getting
money.
work is
Yeah.
better for dwarves than
Dude,
dwarves getting work playing dwarves.
we don't have any blacks or Indians in modern media at all. They've been replaced. Good job, racists. But the thing with this is, you could have hired these people. They could have been your voice actors. You could have
Yep.
CG'd it.
Yeah. Gave us real looking dwarves instead of just, human midgets.
These aren't
Uh
dwarves at all. These are not dwarves. What do we have? We have an actual dwarf who's
yeah,
seemingly missing an arm, so handicap done.
apparently.
We have
It's a
a
twofer.
half mulatto Corsican, maybe. We have an Irish man who should not be in the sun, sir. Get out of the sun
Get out of
immediately,
the sun.
sir.
Immediately. Yep.
We have a fat Englishman. Uh, we we have some effeminate, I don't know,
Extremely black
Islander.
man. Extremely
We
black.
have a lesbian puff woman, and then we have Lurch. So,
Yeah, a very
um,
tall man playing a dwarf.
yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
said
less
these
offended at the
people,
race
Alan.
swapping.
You heard me.
I'm less offended at the race swapping. I'm offended at the tall swapping. Why we got tall people?
It's
What we doing?
weird, just so stupid. They're so stupid. I watched this on Heel versus Babyface. The guy's name is Az. He does stuff with Nerdrotic and stuff. Obviously, his channel used to be a wrestling channel, obviously, but he covers kind of what we cover or Nerdrotic covers. And Az almost laughed himself to death 3 times.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous.
It's
It's ludicrous.
ridiculous. He literally had to stop his video because he couldn't stop laughing. He was all red, dude. I thought he was going to die.
Yeah, because this is insulting to
It
anybody,
is.
to
It is.
anybody with any kind of sense.
It's all
And I don't
insulting.
care what these people say, because the shills are already out defending this shit.
Oh, of course they are. But who
And,
cares? No one's going to watch them.
there's the argument was, uh, 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 rep- uh, don't focus on the fact that it's a German fairy tale, which you're defeating your own argument saying this. But because we have a movie that's going to be more representative of of society. Doesn't say our society, just society. I'm like, what society do you live in, motherfucker?
Yeah. No,
Because
sure.
not every society is LA.
No.
And if you've ever actually been to LA, not every society, not every group in LA is like that. Trust me, faggot Cranston scene. You've never been to Compton. Ain't no Jews there, and if they are, they're getting their ass beat.
That's true.
Just throwing that out there for you.
Straight out of Compton, indeed. The whitest person here, other than the Irishman with the Shillelagh, how racially insensitive of you, by the way, is the Huntsman. And he's super white. He's like, you get out of the sun, sir,
I have a
please.
question. Are we sure that's the huntsman and not one of the dwarves, and then the tall guy in the back's not the huntsman?
Oh,
I don't know.
oh.
I'm just asking questions.
I kind of feel that the one in the back is dopey.
So he's a
They
dwarf
all are.
mentally? Is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
That's
They
even
made
funny.
Dopey a retard.
He's a retard, yeah. He doesn't know he's not a dwarf.
He thinks he's a dwarf. I love it so much. Please let that be true.
They're not that clever, dude. They're unfortunately not clever. See, if they were clever and they were doing it tongue in cheek, they wouldn't be having all the trouble they're having. But they can't do anything successfully. Then, of course, one of the biggest issues here, down here on the left, is Snow White. Now, when you race swap things, it can be more egregious depending on the situation, right? There are certain situations where it doesn't matter as much, and other situations where it matters a lot. I'd say here we have an example of the most egregious. Because why is she called Snow White, Grimlock? I'm going to ask the local urbanite.
Because her skin was white as snow.
That's right. She was abnormally white. She's a freak.
Yeah, basically an albino without the hair.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
Hey, Snow, call me.
Well, no, literally, if you read the original German story, she's freakish. She's white, oddly white. It's kind of like the story of was it Noah? Or I think it was Noah. Wasn't he the one that was born and the father was all upset because he was so white he looked like the angels, and he was basically, they were using kind of innuendo in the Bible, but he was basically accusing his wife of slutting around with angels. Wasn't that Noah's dad?
Maybe, but I don't think it was Noah. I know there's a story in there like that. But
Yeah, I can't remember. He was super white. But yeah, she's abnormally white, and you've chosen. To be fair, she's a rather light-skinned mulatto, but she's clearly a mulatto. And it's extremely egregious in this thing. She's not Snow White. She's called Slush because the. Ooh, thanks, Captain Canada.
No, it's there. You remember a few years. They don't make this argument anymore, or well, sometimes they do, but it's not the main one. They can change the race of a character because the race of that character isn't intrinsic to the character, right? That was.
Oh no, they still make that stupid fucking argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, do you mind Nick Fury being black though?
What about the character called Snow White?
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Literally in her name. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's stupid. But then again,
the entire reason why she ends up in the situation that she does is not because she's prettier than the queen. It's because she's whiter. What does she ask in the mirror? Who's the fairest of them all?
Right. Whose
Fair
skin is
means
the most
lightest
unblemished.
skin.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
That's why. That's why it happens. So it's literally an intrinsic part of her story.
Yeah.
The entire stuff that happens to her is because of the color of her skin. All of it.
And she also talks to animals, weird. And she hangs out with a bunch of 7 adult dwarfs. I mean, extra weird.
And allegedly doesn't sleep with any of them.
No. But this is dumb. And I will correct myself and not let Grimlock have the opportunity. The whole thing with Samuel L. Jackson has nothing to do with his skin color. It's because he's fucking Samuel L. Jackson. You're right. I heard you. I got you.
It's true. He has enough what's the word? It's
gravitas.
not charisma. He does have Gravitas. See, Chester knew where I was going. That's why, to be Nick Fury. Because Nick Fury's got to be a man.
Yeah,
He's got to be the man. When he enters the room, he's got to command that room. When he's entering a room with literal gods, and they're looking at him. That's who Nick Fury is. And Sam Jackson has that. So that's why it's okay. That's why nobody really cares. Because, Sam Jackson, the reason why we didn't care was because when they did it, one, it was before all this nonsense was really a problem. And two, it was because, yes, Sam Jackson's in a movie. That'll help the movies be better. That'll help the movies get bigger, right? He's a draw. That's what we wanted. We wanted them to keep making these movies. Because you remember, it was at the end of the first Iron Man where that really starts to become a thing. I think that's when he first showed up, in fact. And so this was a new thing. This was something they'd never done before that they were planning on doing. And us as comic nerds wanted it to succeed because we thought the idea of the comic books brought to the movies correctly, well, that's pretty cool. Let's do that. And they did do that for the most part for a long time. So it literally was a different context, right? Now we know why they're doing it. They're very open why they're doing it. It's not a secret. It's political. Back then, it wasn't. They didn't cast Sam Jackson as Nick Fury because they needed a black guy. They cast him because he's Samuel fucking L. Jackson. That's why they did it.
No, I know. That's right. I corrected myself quickly. Captain Canada is sharing too much. He says, my dad had a Snow White animated movie where she bangs the dwarfs. Okay, good job, Captain Canada. Now I understand a lot. I do. Arad comes in and says, link for Disparu ? Ha ha ha. Fake news clickbaiter. Thank you very much, Elrod. What does Disparu mean?
I don't know.
Grimlock, you're the urbanite.
I think he's talking about Disparu, the channel.
What is that? Should I check it?
This is another Brit. He's a
Oh,
it's a YouTuber.
it's a YouTuber. Oh, okay.
Yes.
But I thought this was so precious, and this is one of the reasons they did it, because Dinklage came in and called them out. He says, you're going on about being progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story, seven dwarfs living in a cave. What the fuck you doing, man? Now, I understand he's a little sensitive, but here's the thing, Pete. Yeah, they're not human.
That's right.
They're not. That would
Well,
be
not
the
human.
English mispronunciation. Technically, they're called the dvärgar. Okay. We just say dwarf because most Western people can't say dvärgar. They don't have that. They're not born Norwegian Viking like me. You see. And therefore we say dwarf because we're moronic Americans. You see, Pete. But the dvärgar are not a human species at all. Therefore, they live in caves because they're an underground species who mine and are quite capable metal workers as well, Pete. So fuck off, Pete Dinklage, you dumbass. I said this last time, I'm saying it again. Fuck off, Pete, because once again, it's not about you, Pete.
First of all, that's true. Not everything is about you, Mr. Dinklage. And second of all, I have just a quick question. Doesn't the original animated Disney movie, don't they live in like a cabin?
They do. But I mean,
so what are we bitching about here?
Well, he doesn't know. He's a moron from California. You see.
Well,
that's true.
Again, well, in a way, it is all about them because they've had this kind of bitching has got them success. So in a way, it is about them because it's worked. Here's the stupid thing. Again, this is why they never should have done it to begin with, because now, all right. So if you're going to tell the story and they're supposed to be in the fucking cave, well, now you race swapped and you got black people in the cave. Guess who's going to get ready to bitch about niggas being in the cave?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But here you can see in the background they got the cabin. Here's another scene that has the cabin right here. Right. So yeah, they are in a cabin. They're not. They're working in the mountain and as they go, they whistle whilst they work. What a great little catchy tune.
We get to do that. That's white supremacy, so I've been told.
Well, I found out today that working out and exercising is white supremacy. I learned something today. I did. I
Well,
did.
Well, I want to,
Um,
Chester. I'm gonna put it. I think I put it in the general. Actually, I did. When we get a chance, there's a tweet I posted of a man with Down syndrome who is
I
a
saw that.
bodybuilder.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
now also not only does he have Down syndrome, he's a white supremacist Nazi. You see, so that's where we're at in society now. Anybody who decides they'd like to look good in a mirror, you're evil.
Dude,
You're
he's
the
having
bad guy.
fun, man. Good for him, dude.
Loving it, loving it. Loving it.
I'm
And my
watching it.
point is there's like no excuses at all. If this guy can do it, which by the way, I don't know if people know this, but a lot of people with Down syndrome, their bodies don't metabolize quite the same way as somebody without it. So they can store a lot of fat. And it makes it a little bit harder for them. Plus, they don't have a fully functioning normal brain like a normal person does. And so it can be hard to get them there. So he
That's cute.
obviously wants to do this. I mean, clearly, if you watch the video, he loves it, and you don't get in that kind of shape unless you love it. Um, I just find that amazing. I find that absolutely amazing because when I was a young man, when I was between the ages of 12 and 15, my uncle who had Down syndrome lived with us, and I can tell you, it is a very debilitating syndrome.
Oh yeah.
So for him to be able to do that is very, very impressive. It's very impressive.
That's cute. It's nice. It's
Yes.
heartwarming, you know. And that's those things are always good. But no, he's a racist now. Or
Yeah,
I
he's
don't know.
evil.
He's evil.
Basically Hitler. This
How
guy,
dare he even?
who by the way
Uh,
was fat. Let's So I don't know. The king of the Nazis, the top dog, wasn't even in great shape when he was leading Germany. He was pretty chubby at the time. Uh,
yeah. Yeah. But those Hitler youth weren't though. Boy, they were
they were working.
go-getters.
They were working.
They were
They were getting it done.
go-getters. But anyway, this is dumb. And like I said, there's rumors it's already been canceled. And to be honest with you, Iger is in such hot water. I don't know what he can possibly do. They said that they're not going to let Kathleen Kennedy go because no one else wants the job. What does that?
I'll take it.
What? How many
Have
people
you?
did you ask?
Yeah, Bob.
Um,
Have you asked?
yeah.
Have you asked
Um,
anyone? Just give it a
yeah,
shot.
I guarantee you there are tons of people would love to come in there and save that
There
ship.
are
Uh,
hundreds of millions of Star Wars nerds out there.
Burnett being one of them,
You're gonna
right?
tell me you can't find one? Just
Yeah.
one who'll do the job and who has enough qualifications they can pull it off. They
Well,
can't possibly do worse.
well,
Can't possibly.
that's why I said the Star Trek guy. The Star Trek guy could come in there and write a little bit of that ship, possibly. But I mean, yeah, they didn't ask. It's kind of like Maloney there over in Italy saying, "No, we need to bring in half a million immigrants because we need more workers," even though 30% of your population is unemployed. 30%. Yeah.
Oh, so she sold out? What a surprise.
Oh, are you? As soon as Berlusconi died, dude. The second he died, she was on the phone with
Yeah,
them, dude. Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Yeah, this is why I tried. I know it's horrifically sexist, but it's the truth.
it is.
Right wingers, you gotta quit electing women. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you the truth, but it's the truth. You gotta do it because they
In
will do
this
that to you.
day and age, yeah,
Yes.
you need to get
Yes.
away from it. You need to right the ship. We got to right the ship. Put staunch, hard-headed, ultra-conservative dudes in charge, and shit
Prick.
will get pricks, and
Yeah.
like Trump. And shit
Yeah.
will get straightened out. Just do that for a few decades, half century maybe, and you'll straighten shit out. Because
World.
those are the type of no nonsense guys. Because the trouble with women, and one of the troubles with women, I hear Grimlock already. I'm clarifying. One of the problems with women is they're too eager to please.
That's
It's
right.
built into their
That's what
nature.
we ask them to.
Well, no, I don't mean I don't mean sexually. I mean
It's the
overall.
only one I'm interested in.
Yeah, okay, fine. Children, community, everything, and it's built into them. I mean, that's what they
Yes.
do. That's what they're good at. That's why we need them, right? But
Yes.
you want some asshole who doesn't give a shit what you think. He's going to bring it down. He's going to lower that damn budget. He's going to open it up, free market, so people can get a goddamn job, and you fuck off. That's who you need,
Yep.
right?
30% unemployment. That's obscene.
It is obscene,
That is
dude.
obscene.
Yeah.
a third of your country isn't working, and you're going to bring in people to work. Why don't you just get them to work?
Right, and you've already
There's
had
got to be a way.
you've
You
already
can
had
Where is
simply
that
millions
at? I
of
want
them.
to see that.
Well, go find it. There are millions of people who've gone through their country. Some have stayed, and now you're going to bring in more. And if you have so
she
much huge
literally?
unemployment, what are they you expect them to do? Oh, I don't know, burn shit down like France,
Yep.
right? Now,
She was literally elected to do the opposite. By the way. By the way,
yeah,
the
well,
people of
she ain't
Italy
gonna
have had
last.
enough of the migrants and their nonsense that they cause.
No, they need
They've
a
had enough of it.
Berlusconi. They need a strong male leader, and we're starting to get serious pushback in various places, and we'll see how it works out.
Well, I've
Maybe the
said for a
Netherlands
long
can be
time,
saved.
maybe. I've seen since their government collapsed. Hopefully, I've said for a long time that World War III is not going to be nukes lobbed across the ocean at each other. It's
No,
going to be street fights everywhere. It's going to be massive civil wars all over the world because the elites of
well,
our countries refuse to listen to us.
not
It's not
here.
even that they're not listening to us. It's that, well, not in Japan, no. It's they refuse to listen to us. They hear us. They're just like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to do the other thing. Uh, that can't last forever, and it won't. We, historically speaking, as long as history is still the greatest predictor, and it is, as long as that's true, this doesn't last forever. We're actually heading to a very dangerous precipice because the last time we had a revolutionary season, there was a couple good revolutions, like the American one, that were fairly honorable and did what needed to be done. But there was mostly bad ones,
Oh
like
yeah,
the French
the
one.
French one was a disaster. But during the height of the French riots, where literally every single town and city in France was on fire, literally, right?
Yep.
You know what Japanese had on the TV? Would you like to guess? The news, the
I,
nighttime news.
Hypofumi?
No, Bachan Momoyo turned 107 years old.
oh,
Okay,
Mm,
wow.
it's pretty impressive.
Pretty old.
there.
Pretty impressive.
Pretty old.
Yeah.
I've said it, Chester. I've said it on here. I do think that this next 20 years or so is going to be a time of great trouble in the world. And I think Japan is going to be one of the places that come out the best and
Maybe.
become a world power again.
Yeah,
Because I
because
honestly don't think America is going to last. Not as the hegemon. Not
in
no
that
way. There's
form,
no
yeah.
way.
Well,
Yeah.
there is a big bit of pressure coming at them, but then again, they're not going to sit still and let it happen. India is already looking like it's balking. The Chinese economy has collapsed. BRICS. The idea of it is good, and it's good for America actually. Of course, these lying bullshit people who call themselves economists in the West are not economists clearly, because if they were, they would see the BRICS is not a threat, but actually a good thing, because competition breeds success. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, let's
Yep.
move on. It pisses me off too because he's a really good actor.
He is a great actor. Marvel Comics to unsurprisingly revolve? Well, I wish revive Kamala Khan as a mutant in upcoming Miss Marvel: The New Mutant series.
Now,
Why are they insistent that this character must exist? I
because she's the
genuinely don't
right
understand it.
color and she's the right gender.
Yeah, but now they've made her a filthy mutant.
Well,
Like, are we supposed to pretend that mutants aren't disgusting and hated in their universe? Because that's what they
well,
are. They're
and
considered
It's
filthy and gross and hated,
well,
it's
right?
no, it's not that she exists. Is that they insist on making her way more than what she is.
yeah, they
Yep.
want
She's
her
a
to be the
D-list.
face. They can't.
Dude,
Captain
no,
Marvel
have you
didn't
seen how
work.
Marvel actually captioned that shit?
No, go ahead.
Have you seen it?
No.
They called her the heartbeat of the Marvel universe.
According to whom?
To no one.
Yeah.
Not a single
Well,
reader, that's for sure.
now this is really interesting because let's look at this. Let's look at this academically, or logistically, right? Let's take any emotion out of it. And what was she initially? Now, remember that at the time, Iger was warring with Fox, and they'd been battling back and forth, not only financially, but war of words between them, and clearly some things had been said in private that we don't know about because it pissed Bob and all the other people, or Perlmutter and all the other people over Disney, just pissed them off. They hated Fox. They hated them, right? So they went for years once they bought the Marvel, IP. They went for years and years and years and not promoting mutants because they didn't own it. Fox did,
Right.
right? And for years and years, not promoting them in the comic books. And what did they try to lean into? They tried to lean into the Inhumans, and and of course, Kamala was created because of the Terrigen Mists and that storyline. She got caught in it, and that's what changed her. So she's not a mutant. They did this because of their tiff with Fox, because Fox owned X-Men, right? And then along the line, they kind of bounce back and forth because now they own Fox, right? And now they've come full circle and make her a mutant. It's just stupid. There's no reason for her to be a mutant. It's just fine for her being an Inhuman. There's nothing wrong with that. They've existed, well, Jack Kirby and all, right? For a very long time. But these people just don't know what they're doing. They're very, very incapable nitwits. And that's one of the things we've been seeing going along, just like the little seven dwarves who aren't dwarves. They're nitwits. They're incapable. They don't have the necessary skills to do their job. That is a huge problem. We're seeing it across the board and everything. And it's starting to come home to roost, is what we're seeing happening everywhere with everything. And now where we're getting into stuff like, design and actually innovation is being affected now because these ESG companies hiring people because of their color, not because of their capability. It's coming home, dude, and it's going to be a big problem. It's going to blow up on you. Kamala Khan herself initially was a fun little character, but they ruined that immediately, and she just gets worse and worse and worse to the point that you have to not like her just on principle. And then, why did we go from this kind of cute looking little girl to this? I don't mind her being everyone. That's fine. But why is she so dumpy, though?
You know why.
I
You know why.
I know why. I do. And they changed her powers, too.
Yeah, which honestly I
Twice.
wasn't against.
Twice.
They changed
I'm not
it
against
twice.
changing the power because I don't like her power set anyway. I think it's dumb. But I'm not against necessarily doing that. It just proves your point though,
Yeah.
right? They changed them twice, and it's because they have no idea what they're doing. And
Well,
it's obvious.
it's weird, though,
No,
because
no,
the girl armor, the mutant armor, it works well with her, though. It's very similar,
Yep.
right?
no, they know what they're doing. I'll explain why. They know what they're doing. They're doubling down. This is not. We're not talking about typical incompetence. We're talking about doubling down, which is a very female trait. It's you had this character, and she exceeded initial expectations because there wasn't any. Because everybody talks about that first volume. Yeah, that first volume sold past expectations because there wasn't any fucking expectation.
But it was fun, though. 'Cause I did read it.
But yes,
Yeah.
but who did they have in charge? Sana Hamana. This is her fanfic character.
It is her.
And it did
It's
better,
basically
and
her.
it did better than people expected. And they thought, and because she doesn't know what she's doing, she thinks it's for all those stupid fucking buzzwords she used to throw out all the time when they had her do interviews. Notice you haven't seen a lot of her in the last 2 years. But they kept trying to make this character bigger than what it is. And you can't do it. It doesn't work. Nobody cared. It was it is still the lowest rated MCU show of all of them, and that says something because there's been some absolute dog shit that has come through the MCU on Disney Plus, and it's still the lowest rated. Still has the lowest viewership.
Yeah.
But what are they doing? They're putting it on the flagship ABC channel. Why? Because they they want to keep telling people that this character is going to work because the people who created this character can't let go of the fact that no, this character peaked the first time out and you fucked it
Right.
up.
Well,
And rather than admitting that you fucked it up, oh well, if we keep it's what they're doing the same thing with Captain Marvel. So it's kind of fun. It's not even that's what I'm saying. This is not typical incompetence because they're doing the same thing with Captain Marvel. They've changed Captain Marvel's power set now what 6 times.
so
So now
we're just
so
going to
they
call it insanity then. Fine. All right. I got you.
yes
I got
it's that's yes this is not incompetence. This is pure insanity because they're going to keep telling people that this is going to work and everybody else is just wrong. And I can tell you right now, this shit's going to fall is not going to go anywhere because even on Marvel's Facebook page, where they usually have the shills at the top of the fucking comments for this shit, you go down that comments when they revealed that, they're like, "Dog, just stop,
you. Yeah.
just stop.
Well,
Nobody's asking for her."
no one is. And when she first came out, she was this kind-hearted fangirl, and it was cute. But then they took her kind heart away, right?
Yes,
And that's what
but a
killed it.
fangirl thing can only go so far because
Right.
fanboys and fangirls that even amongst nerds, you don't want to be called that.
Yeah, but you know what I
You
mean.
don't.
The taking away the kind heart
Yeah,
is what killed it. And the thing I didn't watch the series with her in it because well, it's for little 12-year-old girls, and that's fine. It's not certainly not for
they didn't
me,
watch it either.
and they didn't watch it either. Is the problem. Because it didn't appeal to them because she's not sexy cute because they all at that age they all want to be sexy cute, they're starting to play with makeup, and
Yep.
they're starting to do things,
But
and
Figure
it's
themselves
not
out.
even.
That's for
But
sure.
again, it's not even sexy cute. It's going back to her being a fangirl. Girls
maybe.
don't typically, at least not for comic book stuff. That's not to say that they're not female comic fans. We're not going down that road. But the things a 12-year-old girl will fangirl over isn't usually comic shit. They're not going nuts over the newest issue of Spider-Man coming out, the newest boy band flavor of the month. They'll lose their marbles on that, but they're not going to lose their marbles on that.
No, and the females that would be like 7, 8. That age group is when they'll actually
Yeah.
fangirl like that. But
Yeah,
this is clearly not for that little of kid. But whatever, I don't really care. But they just can't make up their damn mind. Stop your nonsense.
You know what's
Now,
funny
yeah.
is we talk about this a lot, but the manga, My Hero Academia, did this correctly and infinitely better
hmm
with the idea of a fanboy becoming a hero, which is exactly what he is at the beginning of that series. The main character, he's a fanboy of All Might, and he becomes All Might effectively and becomes the hero.
Right.
They did that so much better. He did that so much better than Marvel did that I bet most people don't even realize that that's basically what it is. It's
Yeah.
effectively the same functional story. I mean, obviously there's differences, but it's the bones of it are the same. This big fan got to live his fantasy and actually live up to it,
Right.
right? He actually proved it. And that's pretty cool. The idea is pretty cool, but it's because he grew past as a character what he originally was.
Right. And
She, because they continuously reboot her, and because every time they do, they make her worse somehow, has done nothing but just be stuck. Every iteration of her that they bring out has the same problem, and it goes nowhere. And it's because, well, partially because they're insistent that this is going to work, and other
well,
reasons are because they're just
and,
they're what's the word
right,
I'm
but
looking
and,
for? They're
and not to
obstinate.
mention, you're going to make her a mutant at the low point in your X-Men franchise, where there's
well,
less people reading the X-Men than there have ever been, and that's saying something
I
considering the last 10 years has been dog shit.
I think that tells you that that Disney Studios is coming with some X-Men stuff soon. Is what that actually tells you, but which is terrifying. But yeah, no. The reason why All Might, well, My Hero Academia works is because yes, he's a fanboy, but All Might puts the kibosh on that immediately.
Yes,
Immediately puts a kibosh on that.
which
But
is why he's so smart. That's so smart
it is
because you take that edge away. Because like Grimlock's saying, is nobody actually wants to be that. There are people who are that, but if you call them that, it's not really a badge of honor. It means
No.
you've
Even
gone too far into it, right?
perfect example of that in of all places. SpongeBob SquarePants. He was a fucking fanboy
Yep.
of Mermaid Man, and even their fan club kicked him out for fanboying.
Yeah, he was too much of a
He is too
fanboy. Yep,
much of a
that's
fanboy.
right.
But the thing with Kamala is the fact that Captain Marvel not only didn't put the kibosh on it, she fed
Yep.
into it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Leech
made her
on
her
it.
little soldier.
Yep, she literally brought her into evil and did doing evil things. Literally doing, made her a villain. Captain America was a villain. I mean, excuse me, Captain Marvel was a villain. And she corrupted this young girl who adored her into being a villain alongside her. That's what they
Yep.
did. And the thing it's interesting about this progressive woke Marvel and many other things, they're always making the villain the hero. Have you noticed this?
It's
Yes.
very strange. The
So
psychology of that is very interesting
it
because
is
it
weird.
tells me that these people see themselves as the villain, but they can't admit it.
Maybe. Yeah. And
Subconsciously,
it's like
they see themselves as the bad guy. That's why they glorify it.
well, it's like the Craven movie, right? I mean,
Yep.
he is one of the most vile villains in comic books
He's an animal.
because he does it for pleasure.
Yeah, he enjoys hurting people.
Well,
Loves it.
it's because starting with our generation and maybe some of Gen X, the coddling and pussification of kids,
Yep.
where they could do something completely abhorrent in front of you, and somebody would run up and go, no, 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 don't discipline him, he didn't mean that, he's just misunderstood. And these people grew up, oh yeah, you was the kid who used to throw firecrackers at cats, you were horrible then. No, I was just misunderstood. No, you was
No,
horrible.
you're shit.
And
Yeah.
no, and somebody should have told you he was a
Right.
horrible little shit. But
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
somebody coddled you, you went all through your formative years where you know the the crafting of your mind commences, thinking, oh no, I'm not. In spite of these things that I even know to be morally reprehensible, and I'm still doing it. I'm not doing it because I'm bad. I'm just misunderstood. No, no, you're a piece of shit, and you've been
Yep.
coddled,
Yeah. That's true.
I
and
agree.
people enabled you.
Yeah.
And now that you get out into the world, you still carry that fucking worldview, and then you fucking chafe when you finally somebody comes to you and go, "Nah, you're just a piece of shit."
You know,
We have a whole generation of writers and things now who do know nothing more about bad guys than sympathy for the devil.
yeah.
Every
Yes,
single one of these bad guys, there's some great reason you should feel sorry for them or
And Mick
whatever.
Jagger
And
told you that was bad.
yes, that's my point. Is
well,
there's a time to tell that story, sure, but you have to remember there's still the fucking devil. They're not
yes,
redeemable, and they chose that. That's why I like, for instance, the new Puss in Boots movie because it has the sympathy for the devil villains, and then it has one that's a monster, and he knows it, and he's fine with it. He chose it. He wanted to be it, and I approve of that because that is what we need. We need more villains like that. We need more villains who we can understand where they're coming from, but we don't sympathize with, right? That's what we
yeah,
need in modern everything, comic books, everything. There's no reason that I should feel sorry for a villain at the end of, especially the villains that they're using this to do with. Like a great example is Thanos. Thanos is a monster. He's an
yes,
absolute irredeemable. He's called the Mad Titan. He's completely and utterly mad, but yet they made him into a almost sympathetic figure because he's not wrong. He's completely correct in his assessment. He has the wrong solution, but he's completely correct.
but
And
they also had to change that story to make that work
yes, yes. But my point
because
is, these people don't know how to tell the story where the villain isn't, it's some way, from a certain perspective or point of view, he's also the good guy. Or he could be seen as doing the right thing from a certain point of view. No, they're the bad guy for a reason. There's a reason Spider Man fights them and tries to stop them. It's because they're evil. You don't need to get any deeper than that necessarily. And I'm picking Spider-Man, who is probably the one who has the most of this, the sympathetic villains. Even a lot of his villains you shouldn't really have sympathy for, because they've chosen their path willingly. So I'm just tired of it. I'm so sick of modern Hollywood. I'm glad these writers are on strike. Hopefully they replace them all with the computer,
That would be
because
good.
I
Oh yeah.
am so
That'd be good.
sick
Yeah.
of this nonsense where every villain we have to have sympathy for. We have to understand it. We have to go on a 30-minute excursion in a movie explaining why they're the bad guy. Fuck off. Just give me a
I'm
bad
not.
guy.
You know, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but at the end of the day, he's still the villain, and
Yeah.
that's because I don't know if you remember some years ago when we talked about this. That I think one of the biggest mistakes Marvel ever made was they turned Venom to a hero because of his
I agree.
popularity. No,
Yep.
Eddie Brock and
And he lost
Venom
his edge
are
immediately.
irredeemable sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shit that they did
I'll be back
in
in a
those
minute,
initial,
guys.
in that initial run of Venom from the birth all the way through, I think all the way up until Lethal Protector. Venom should have no.
There's no redeeming that.
He tormented Peter just for fun.
Yep.
He knew
Jill Cadet
everything
love.
about him. He tormented him. He intended on killing him. He had no problem with killing other people, and he saw themselves as the heroes that never should have been redeemed. But because he was so fucking popular, and because Marvel at the time their leadership wasn't as good, they went ahead with it. And yeah, in the long run, it's worked out because Venom is still a wildly popular character, and he's one of the few books that still fucking move. But he set that precedent because there's a lot of other villains like that. They should not be redeemed. They should not be. You could understand their motivations all the fuck you want. That's fine. Having a deep villain, a villain with a big background story, it makes them better.
Yep.
But to have it to where they should be seen as redeemable in any sort of light or any sort of way, and you could possibly blame some of that on Darth Vader too, because let's be honest, Vader should not be redeemable.
Listen,
He
he didn't
really
mean it, all
shouldn't.
right? He only killed those children because he was told to. God. He only literally cut them in half with a blade of pure light because he was told to. He's not a bad guy.
Because he
had
had a
a moment of
nightmare.
clarity one time.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. It really is frustrating that all of these writers, so many of them, think they need to redeem their villains or do any of this stuff. There's no reason to do it. The best example of, and this is a movie about a villain, the Joker movie. And
Yeah.
even though we understand where Joker's coming from, we understand, his whole situation. I didn't feel sympathy for him when he was doing his bad stuff. It was fun to watch, but it wasn't because I felt for Arthur, which is not even his real name, but that's the name he has in the movie. I felt for Arthur. It was because I like watching the Joker be Joker. But it wasn't from a place of sympathy. I wasn't sympathetic to Arthur's plight, even though they explained it very well. It was more of, oh, well, this is why he becomes who he becomes, why he chooses the madness, which is very important in that movie. He absolutely chooses. That's what the whole last scene is about with Robert De Niro. He is in that moment, he has made his decision. He is going to be a madman, basically. He has
Right. Yeah.
chosen the madness.
Well,
That is irredeemable. You don't get to come back from that, and he knows it, and he chose it anyway.
yeah, but
That is the difference.
sure, but I'm making comparison with Craven, right? Because
Mhm.
I saw that video game clip and I was looking at it inside my eye and I thought it was the movie clip and I was like, oh, it's proper Craven. Then I saw the actual trailer and it
Yep.
pissed me off because the Joker is crazy. He has an excuse. Mr. Freeze is
Yep.
trying to bring back his dead wife. Vermin is a literal animalistic predator. Most villains have purpose. Craven just likes killing.
Does it for
Yeah.
sport.
He's a bad, bad guy. And,
Yep.
I'm going to move on to the next story. But the thing is, like I said a little bit ago, Mick Jagger was right. And when Mick Jagger is right, your fucking planet's on fire.
Yeah, you're in a bad,
You're in a
bad place.
bad place, dude.
No, that's
Yeah,
right.
but,
That's what people misunderstand about that song. He's not telling you to have sympathy for the devil. He's warning you against it.
Well, no, he's pleading his case because, like, in the first 3 verses of that song, he's talking about the horrible shit he's done to humanity over the years.
Yes.
And but then he comes in the last verse and he says, "Just call me Lucifer because I'm in need of some restraint. So if
Yep.
you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, and some taste." Right?
Yeah.
He's
Still the
telling
devil.
you that, yeah, I'm evil son of a bitch, and someone needs to stop me because I ain't gonna stop.
As the Bible calls him, he walks about as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour.
Oh
The
yeah,
Bible says it.
that's true. Yeah, and the end of
Yeah.
that verse actually kind of quotes that.
Yeah.
Where did I let me go back in my because I actually sing this song. Let's see. They call me Lucifer. Yeah. Oh yeah. Have some courtesy, have some sympathy, and some taste. Use all your well-learned politeness, or I'll lay your soul to waste.
Yep.
Yeah. No. And it's not good when Mick Jagger's right. It's really not good.
No, he's not praising the devil there.
No, he's
Um,
not.
he's telling you he is an irredeemable bastard, and avoid him. Basically,
Yeah.
avoid him or be nice to him if you run into him because he might destroy you. Which is what I want from a villain. Dang it! Like that is what a villain should be. They should be pure darkness.
Well,
And
it
I
depends on the
think,
villain, right?
yeah, but I think that my point is a true villain, like an arch nemesis or whatever, a true dark, the complete antithesis of your hero. So like Spider-Man's the best example. The reason Venom works is because he's that antithesis. He is completely about hurting Spider-Man and other people too.
Yeah.
Where Spider-Man's about saving them. Their moral compasses are completely inverted. And the reason why people liked Venom is because up until what Grimlock was talking about, where they decided he needed to be a good guy for some reason, well, money was the reason. He never tried to be anything else. He was
No, he's
very
just a
simple.
predator. Yeah.
Yes.
But you remember that movie, that really, 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 really bad Batman movie that had Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze? Remember?
Yeah.
Remember? Oh my
Yep.
God. Talk about miscasting on an epic level. Because that character is actually would be much better represented in Matt Reeves' setting. Right. And
Yep.
here's a casting suggestion from Miss Reeves. If you ever hear me through the zeitgeist, go get Cranston to play Mr. Freeze, please.
I love everything you're saying to me right now.
Yeah, he would
Love it.
be perfect because that's a dark, tragic character, dude. Super
It's
dark, tragic.
perfect that you bring him up because Breaking Bad was probably the last time in long form they did a villain arc and told the story correctly.
Yeah,
Walter White is not in any way a hero. He is a bad, bad man. And that's literally called Breaking Bad. It's where a good guy turns into a bad guy.
yep,
And by the end of it, he realizes that he is a bad guy and accepts his fate and doesn't get out of it, which is also impressive that they didn't somehow weasel him out of it. Um, I appreciate that. And that's what we're talking about here. The reason why you don't always need to have sympathy for the devil. Now, there's times where it makes sense. Some characters are tragic, like Mr. Freeze.
mm,
Um, but there's also times where they're not really tragic. They've just decided to be a bastard man now. For selfish reasons or whatever reasons they are, they've decided to do bad things. And they rationalize it away, maybe. Sometimes they don't, as they're not doing bad things. And that's okay for your villain. Your villain doesn't necessarily. One of the reasons why everybody loves the Joker is because he's just chaos. That's it.
Sheldon's
That's who
picking
he
a
is.
fight.
Yep. He loves the madness. He loves it. He lives for it. It makes him happy. Just the insanity. And because of that, people love him for it because he is unapologetic and completely irredeemable. The only person in the universe who thinks he can somehow be saved is Batman. He's the only one. Even the readers are like, nah, this dude's got to go. Bats, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's true.
This is a rabid animal
Yeah.
here. We got to get rid of this.
Alan suggests Jeremy Irons for Mr. Freeze. Yeah, I'm sure he could pull it off, but he doesn't have the chops that Cranston has, dude.
Yep.
He just doesn't. But he could pull it off, though, sure. But unfortunately, we have a bad guy, a B&E guy, a kind of foolish one, turned good guy here, and a pimp slapper. Sweet.
Yes. A potential woman beater. That's fine. Um, Yeah,
Okay.
Ant-Man.
Read.
Ant-Man.
Yeah. Headline.
Ant-Man's one of those characters, especially their version of it, where they kind of did it right in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah,
I like the
I liked it.
characterization. I think they did a really good job of a bad guy, because he was a bad guy who didn't want to be a bad guy anymore. Especially like obviously didn't, because of his daughter and everything else. Like all the motivations for his redemption, quote unquote, makes sense, and I think they did a very good job with it. So there's a way to do it. We're not saying never do it. We're just saying if you do it, it needs to make sense. It needs to work. The character needs to have a proper motivation and needs to actually achieve redemption. You can't just like Darth Vader it at the last minute decide to do the right thing and then you're redeemed. No. That's not how it works. Whereas Ant-Man, who was doing very bad things for a very long time, he decides to start doing the right things and slowly earns his redemption because of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to do it.
No,
The
I liked
problem
the way
is
they
so
had
many of
the
them don't.
original Ant-Man and him. I liked it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Alan, yeah, I get you met back in the 90s, but even in that case, I would choose Michael Ironside.
Oh my God, I would choose Michael Ironside for just about anything.
Anything.
I
Yeah.
love Michael
Or
Ironside.
John Saxon. He might have been dead by then.
Might have
Yeah.
been.
John Saxon,
That little
same kind of
Michael
guy.
Ironside.
Oh,
Oh, you put him in
Jesus.
that freeze suit,
Oh, my
that
goodness. He
voice.
would have ate that up, dude. He would have ate it
If you
alive.
were gonna go a more sciency way with Mister Freeze, like less physically imposing, you could go. What's the guy who played James Bond's villain, the Spectre guy? He's a little German guy. Fuck's his name? He's in all kinds of
Um,
stuff.
oh, yeah.
He
No,
was
he's
also
in,
the Nazi in Inglorious Bastards, the
yeah.
one Nazi
Oh,
guy.
what's his name? Werner. No.
I can't remember his
God
name.
damn it.
I'm blanking.
I know who you talk about. He would be interesting too. Although I
Yeah.
think we could think of some better characters for him to play. Oh god, it's not Werner. It's oh fine. Let me look it up. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe I should just go my first thought. Let's see here. Christopher Waltz.
Christopher Waltz. That's it. Uh, or Christoph Waltz, I think is how he goes.
Christoph. Yeah, Christoph Waltz.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think he could be an interesting, more cerebral take on Mr. Freeze if they're gonna, because especially Matt Reeves' universe is a little bit different, obviously.
Mm.
So you could make that change. I think he would fit just fine, especially since he's such a good dark actor. He's
Di-
so good at menace.
You know what I would like though on the in that line? I know it doesn't make sense for the physicality, but imagine Christoph Waltz playing Zaz.
Yeah, could do.
That would be
Could do.
weird, but boy, that could be really interesting.
Gotta have
Given
that
how
menace.
he does have that menace, he can
Yeah.
have that menace, and that's the great thing about Inglorious Bastards. Actually, he has a scene where he's incredibly menacing,
Yeah.
several,
And
and
he's
then he
not a
has a
big guy.
no, he's not.
Not
But
physically
then he has a
intimidating.
scene where he's completely cowed, right?
Yep.
With the big Jew with the bat, right? But it's yeah. Anyway, headline, please.
CEO Bob Iger claims Marvel Studios' recent failings are because, quote, they diluted focus and attention by spreading their employees too thin. Oh, Bob.
Yeah, bullshit.
Oh, Bobby boy. Just accept it, Bob. He won't, though, because he's absolutely a zealot, but he won't do it.
Wow, what a
No.
statement, though.
The recent
You're one of
failings
the you're one
are
of the
poor
biggest.
creative direction. That's what it
Yeah,
are.
It's ESG.
Yes.
And
That's
I,
chasing the woke bullshit.
I don't think anyone believes you, Bob.
Bob doesn't believe Bob. You
No.
know he doesn't believe that shit. He knows what the problem is. He's not stupid.
Yeah,
He's just a zealot. He's
he is
all
a
in.
zealot.
I've been telling people Disney's all in. They're not going to back down. The only way you're going to stop Disney is to either break Disney up or sell them off. That's it. They
Well,
are all in
it's
on
like
this.
George Foreman says, "You want me out? Put me out." And he took
Yep.
the crown again. Maybe that's not a good example for what we're talking about.
But that's basically
Yeah,
what it is. They're not going to back down.
you're one of the biggest companies in the world, not just this country, but the entire fucking world.
Oh yeah.
You bought up most of the market, and not just most of the market, the best the market had to offer. And you're gonna tell me, and everybody else, in front of God and everybody, that your shit, not because you constantly pushed shit that you knew was failure to the front of the line when there was hundreds of us, thousands of us on
Millions.
this platform and other platforms that said, if they go to this ain't gonna work.
Yep.
It didn't work when they tried it before. It's not gonna work now.
No,
And old Bobby boy said full speed ahead.
He did. And keep in mind, this whole deleted focus and attention by spreading their employees too thin. Each of their multi-$100 million movies has hundreds, if not thousands, of people attached to it.
Yes.
Right? So what are you talking about, thin employee? What are you talking about?
And we've seen pictures of some of these employees, anything but thin.
But you know what I
Well,
mean.
it's a pretty clever way to blame his employees and not blame them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
of course
what that
it's
is.
someone else's fault.
It's
progressive.
you greenlit it, homie. The buck stopped with you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 2 points for Howell. No points for Howell. All points for me, lady. Sheldon says, I think Michael Ironside was an option to do Joker's voice in the animated series, but his voice was too scary. I wouldn't doubt it. Michael Ironside could put that shit
I think
up,
he was.
dude.
I think it was him and Tim Curry, but Tim Curry ended up getting the Peter Pan role.
Right, and I heard Tim Curry's voice test, and it was interesting. But I mean, the simple fact of the matter is, not Michael, Mark Hamill was born to do that role.
He
even
owned
looks
it.
like the Joker. It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
insanely good. It's one of the best voiced characters ever.
Yep.
That's an objective truth as well.
Oh,
I'm going to move on from this, but it's just
real quick.
Fuck off, Bob.
I find it interesting. As Grimlock said, they bought everybody. They bought up basically all their competition in their space.
Yep.
Right. So
Except
how
for Sony.
the hell did you? Yes. How did you stretch them too thin, Bob?
Yeah.
You bought everybody else.
Yeah,
Where
Bob.
are they? They were making movies before you showed up. So what's the problem?
Yeah.
What's the problem here, Bob?
The problem is heteronormativity. You see.
Well,
that's the
part of it. That's part of it, but part of it was when they bought those people, they've also fired a lot of people for no reason other than, well, you had to reshuffle the books because you bought Fox with funny money, and it's coming to light that you bought it with funny money. But also, and we tried telling people this before, when Disney, and I'm saying this as somebody who bitched about Marvel being under Disney from the moment they was purchased, because everybody knew what Disney was doing, and see them as an IP farm, and you can't do that. You just can't. Not with a medium as fickle as comics, because as we've talked about, there are tens of thousands, hell, at this point, even hundreds of thousands of comic characters that have been introduced at some point since the early 1900s, but only a handful of those characters have really stuck the test of time.
Right, like the Shadow. Yeah, but I mean, you could do it, but you would need someone like a Stan Lee or say a Richard Simmons in charge.
But even then, you couldn't. Not every character could work. I mean, between the three of us, we just alone, we've seen. I saw you sneak that in.
Right over the top.
Oh no, I just wasn't gonna take the bait. I saw you sneaking in.
Richard Simmons was a passionate man. Passionate
bring a
man.
lot of energy.
He
You know
would.
Be a
what?
lot more energy on them sets.
I would rather see Richard Simmons in charge of Marvel than Disney, because at
He
least
couldn't do worse.
Richard Simmons always gave you the visual that he cared.
And
Even if somebody
100%.
could say even if they could say, "Oh, Richard was faking it all those years," at least he looked like he cared.
What
You
do you mean
bought
faking
in.
it? That man believed in what his whole life he believed in fitness and health, and he did so many things for so many people.
I'm just saying.
Great
There's
man,
always a
Richard
cynic.
Simmons. Great man.
There's
And you know
there's
what?
always a
You
cynic.
know, there's a secret. There's a little secret from my generation that no one knows. I'm going to give it to you now. First time ever revealed in history. Richard Simmons was a gay man, and no one gave a shit.
I mean, he was pretty obviously gay. It's kind
Yeah,
of hard.
but
When
what
you're
a
that
wonderful, wonderful man, Richard Simmons.
when you're
Wonderful
that
man.
gay, it's hard to hide it.
Yeah, good human being. But you know,
But yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would rather Richard Simmons in charge of
yeah,
Marvel too. Look,
yeah.
at one time we could have had Michael Jackson in charge of Marvel, and
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
that's true.
that would have been bad. That would have been really
no, it
bad.
wouldn't have.
Yeah,
No,
it would. It would have.
You
Michael
would have got
cared.
some really
No,
interesting
that's true.
music
Michael
videos.
was an extremely hardworking, focused fellow. That is true.
and
Which what killed him in the end, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he was a perfectionist. So I know everybody could sit there and make fun of him, but he'd have been tapping them women on the shoulders and be like, "That's not how the story goes. Change that."
Yeah, he would. He would. No, that's
With
true.
his soft ass voice.
He
Imagine him being the boss of you.
he
He comes up to you. Hey, you're doing that wrong.
while
You put me
whilst
on.
grabbing his crotch. Don't
Yeah.
forget
Well,
that.
listen, it itched real bad. I understand. You had to hit the crotch.
Could you imagine him being your boss? You bring in some of the dog shit Marvel's been putting out, and he just looks at it, tears it up, and moonwalks out of the office.
Right. As he's going out, it's like he ain't no one got time for that shit. Something like that.
Yeah, why not?
You get him, Michael. You get him, Michael. But yeah, no, this is a freaking shit show, dude. And Arger knows that. I mean, what a dumbass thing to say, dude. But
Stretch too thin. You motherfuckers decided you was gonna do an Agatha Harkness series based on a cameo, and then goes, "I don't know why people aren't interested in seeing this."
and they only want to do it because it was female character, more female characters, less male characters. And it's unfortunate because if they were playing this straight, you could have had a cool little spinoff with that actually, if they were
No,
playing this straight.
if you
But
was smart and you'd have done Black Widow correctly, you could have spun off Yelena, and you could have even done a Red Room series. But nope, you decided to fuck around for 10 years with Widow, and by the time she came out, nobody cared.
That's true. But we are talking about heteronormativity today, and of course we have Valiant destroyed by the lack of it. We have Peter Dinklage and his once again anti-normalness. We have this is a perfect candidate for what they've done with her and the fight against heteronormativity. Of course, this comment right here. And let's take a look at what we got coming out here. Let's look at a few things in a row, shall we? Since we're talking about heteronormativity. This is the cast of The Acolyte. And every single one of them, except for Carrie Ann, and of course we know Carrie Ann ain't gonna say shit because she's a fucking professional, and she's the only one there that has some age on her. We've seen Carrie Ann in Moss, by the way. We've seen her in many, many roles, and she's a staunch professional. She plays the older lady bitch really well. Right.
Yep.
So she's the only one I hadn't heard a single word from. Everybody else here in this cast, the other, 8, have an opinion, especially Amandla Stenberg. Amandla?
Amandla.
What kind of fucking name, dude?
No.
But it is. It's one of those ghetto names, man. And Charlie Barnett down here. These two specifically have been making lots of comments how they're very, very happy to be fighting against heteronormativity. How it's time that black people and colored people have never been respected. They've been kept down the whole time. They've never had roles. They've never been allowed in Hollywood. They're the first black people that have ever been in a goddamn movie. You
So
listen to them
can
talk, that's exactly what they're saying.
can I point out the fact that these people are so serious about making sure representation is right? They have exactly two people with hyphenated last names and exactly two people with hyphenated first names. I
Yeah.
appreciate the consistency.
Yeah, so do I. I do have a question though. Is Daphne Keene, is she the love child of Drew Barrymore? Because damn, dude, look at her.
That could be
It
possibly.
looks like Drew. It looks like Drew. Baby, take a look at that. Doesn't that look like
Rebecca
Drew Barrymore?
just smelled something rotten, but doesn't want anybody to notice.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
anyway, so we got this thing, and this show is all about the woke. This is the most woke progressive that Disney has gone with Star Wars, and that's saying a lot, dude. That's saying a lot. But these two, particularly this Charlie and this Amendla, what a name. They just won't shut up. They're going on and on and on. They're just these spokesmen for the woke, right? Let's look what else we got. Let's continue on looking at, because it's not stopping, you see. And I think it's one of these things that won't stop until it's burned down. I have a feeling. Take a look at this moron.
The Purge creator James DeMonico, oh boy, says next entry is about the quote remapping of America based on ideology, sexuality, and religion.
Now, I watched the first Purge. It's kind of different. I've seen things like that, Attack on Precinct 13, and things, similar concepts. And then I saw the second one, I think, and I was out because it's very clear that he was kind of pushing this, and he little by little it, and now he's got to the point that he's just 100%. Because his whole thing is about how white people bad and white people need to be purged and put in their place, and we need to purge society of heteronormativity.
Yep.
This is exactly what he's against. Now, I saw it in movie 2. I don't know how it's made it to movie 6, and this upcoming movie 7, I guess, is the number. But this guy is just all about kill Whitey. Kill Whitey. And people love it, and they go to these movies and they keep making more of them because they're popular. I don't understand how you keep watching a movie series that's literally telling you they want you to die. If you're a white
Practice.
person or a Christian person, particularly, you are in their sights, literally. And then he goes on a rant here about Marjorie Taylor Greene, where she was talking about a national divorce. And it's clear he didn't actually listen to what she said. Because if you listen to what she said, she's actually making a case for us trying to stop it,
Yep.
is what she's actually saying. But he clearly didn't care. He heard one thing and then was out. But there's, once again, another person making a case to get rid of normal. Normal. And the thing with these idiots like Amendla, right? Good German name you got there, girl. But Amandla and her absolute nonsense in that rotted little brain of hers is the fact that you only make up 12% of the population. And the reason you only make up 12% of the population is because you keep murdering your babies.
That's right.
Mm, mm. But yet you're not represented enough. And even though many people outside of America assume that America is a predominantly black country because all they see on TV is black people.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
I tell that to
yeah.
libs, and
Uh-huh.
they're like, no, that's crazy. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
no,
crazy.
it's real.
So here's these things we talked about before. Acolyte is full. Wow, boy, they're biting into that full. They're just they're going for a ride. This purge guy is excited to murder white people. Excited, Mister from Monaco. I wouldn't. I'd change my name because Mister James from Monaco. Your name, that kind of puts a little bit of an elite tag on you there, buddy. A little bit,
A bit.
little bit,
Yeah.
little bit. But then, of course, we have our favorite actor. You just won't believe who it is. You would not
Oh,
believe who it is. He's your favorite ever, Thundero.
oh boy, yeah. Barbie star. I'm sure he's a
Uh
star.
huh.
Simu Liu says film puts the final nail in the coffin of that very heteronormative idea of what gender is.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I want everybody to be very clear. Gender as a concept was constructed by a pedophile. That's a fact, Jack.
Uh,
That is reality.
okay. Please specify. Are you still there?
Sorry, my wife was in here on speaker. I didn't know if you guys could hear. On speakerphone, talking to her friend. Anyway, yeah, no, the very concept of gender was created by a pedophile. The man who originally created it was absolutely 100% a pedophile, and I just think the whole terminology is silly. They didn't. You'll go back a few hundred years. People didn't call things by gender. They called things by sex
Yeah.
because that's what it was. Uh, there is no gender. Gender is a completely made up concept. We only accepted it as normal because it was used in synonym with sex. So everybody just okay, fine. But it's not. It's a new thing. The very
Mhm.
concept of it is a new thing. Even the term is
It
a new word.
is because it's a it's a French word.
Yep.
If you look at it in its form, and it comes from the word genre, meaning
Yep.
kind or type, right?
That's right.
It doesn't really have anything to do with
Sex.
sexuality, but we kind of picked it up from the French. I don't know how. That's why I asked you to specify because it's I don't
I
think
can't
until
remember
the
his name.
70s is when they really started
Yeah, it was like the 60s and 70s when he
using
came
it
up with
in
it.
that form. Yeah.
Somebody probably out there will know his name. I can't remember what his name was,
John
but yeah,
Money.
he was. Yeah, John Money, 100% a pedophile. Like I'm not even make that's not even alleged. Absolutely, pedophile. He was one of these social scientists retards. So I'm just gonna come out against the entire social sciences aren't real. They're all made up. All of them. Every single one of them. They're nonsense. Anyway, uh, one of these people who came up with this idea, this concept of gender, and it simply doesn't exist. It's kind of like racism doesn't really exist either. We just all kind of accept the
No, it's
terminology.
culturalism. Yeah.
It's culturalism, right? Nobody actually despises somebody because they have a different color to them.
No, it's
That's they
culture.
don't care. Yeah. So these sorts of things are academically sounding words or academic terms that have filtered into society and been either misconstrued or misapplied, largely intentionally, I would argue, for the purpose of confusion. Because communists, that is their whole deal. They deconstruct and disrupt until they can seize power. And this was one of them. This is one of these examples. So when he's talking about things like the final nail in the coffin of the very heteronormative idea of what gender is, he's literally using two leftoid buzzwords to argue against each other. That's all he's doing. They've made up their own little version of language, their own little version of English, and they use it to argue in circles to make it seem like they actually have a point.
Right.
There is no point here. You're talking about two completely constructed ideas that are utterly and absolutely fake. They don't exist. They're not real. Gender isn't real. Heteronormativity, it's not real. What you're talking about is humanity. Humanity is real. Sexuality is real. But gender and this heteronormative, the entire vernacular is made up by the scholarly class, if you want to
Yeah.
call them that.
Yeah. Don't bring me into this conversation.
Well, the difference with you, Chester, is you actually work in the real world,
I do.
right? You,
Yeah.
you apply your knowledge in the market. Most of these people, not only have they never done so, they could not do so. If
That's
they even
probably true. I've
attempted
met
to
a
do
lot of
so,
them.
they would shrivel.
Yeah.
No, they'd shrivel and die. They exist in these ivory towers, and that's just how their life has always been, and how they constructed it. But
Well,
these very concepts and the things that they're arguing over are things they made up.
It's
They made
true.
them up, and now they're arguing over them.
In the 70s, after the the civil rights movement in America, and keep in mind, even though the West, the rest of the world doesn't want to admit it, what happens in America dictates what they do. The Europeans
Yes.
always look down on us, they always insult us, right? But yet they're always copying us. How ironic. But in the 70s, there was a lot of this nonsense going on, and I assume they took this word. Gender, meaning the kind of a something, because its root is gene, and that means kind or particularly offspring, kind of like the word
Yep.
genesis, gene assist, the generations or the offspring of Isis. You know, that's where that word comes
Oh,
from, just so you know. But anyway, that in the 70s, that's probably why they made the connection to human sexuality, because they wanted a more specific word, because sex just didn't seem to be scientific enough. I have a feeling that's what was going through their head.
could
So,
be. It could be that. It also could be that they're communists and
maybe.
they do things intentionally to obfuscate. This isn't new. It's not like a conspiratorial thing. It's literally written in their book by Karl Marx to do this.
Hmm.
Um, this is, I mean, just go read. If you've never read the Communist Manifesto, oh boy, go read it. It's a read.
Oh yeah,
And
several of them.
the reason why it's so insidious is because he's not totally wrong. His complaints are mostly accurate. It's his prescription for the remedies that is nonsensical, ridiculous. Man never worked a day in his life solutions. Clearly, because they're just obscene. But
Hmm.
that's why these people, who many of them are, died in the wool communist Marxists, or at the very least. Um, that's why their solutions and what they do and the things they say, like this term heteronormativity, is so made up. It's such bullshit. Heterosexual just means that you have sex with the opposite gender. Normative means, well, normal, something that is normal. That is normal for human beings. So to say you're going to put the nail in the coffin of heteronormative, you're going to kill human sex? What are you talking about? That's what you're saying is nonsensical. These are nonsense words, but these people firmly believe them, and they're dangerous because of it. Because I think they genuinely want to end heterosexuality, which
Well,
is insane
would you
and impossible.
would you want Simu Liu to be your drum major?
No,
Yeah.
I would want him to be in the dirt where he belongs
Yeah.
because he's a communist, and that's the
Yeah.
fate of all communists and where they all belong.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
I can't make it any more straightforward than that.
I would assume that old Harold Matson is rolling in his grave, and the people over at
Yeah.
Mattel must be just absolutely crying into their soup, because every other day some moron from the Barbie movie comes out and says exactly what they don't want them to say.
Yeah, this
Dummy,
movie's not going to do
Margot
that.
Robbie, as cute as she may be, but she's a dummy. She came out and said, "Oh yeah, it's feminist," right? And then a
Yeah.
few other people try to, chill that down, and then other people spoke up, and then here you go, frickin' Simi Liu talking about how it's going to destroy your families. Good
Well,
job, Simu.
well, when hasn't he said something completely fucking stupid?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, this is another one. I don't know what fucking drugs he's on that makes him so delusional,
Mhm.
but either he needs to start selling that shit and make some real fucking money,
Yeah.
or he needs to go to rehab
Well,
because
yeah, but dude, this what he's put a nail in the coffin of is this movie.
this
Because
is
families are
yeah.
not going to take their kids to these movies, dude. They're not going to do it. You are saying everything a parent is terrified to hear you say, dude. Right? I know there's a lot of parents who just shut up and go along with it because they're afraid. And that's really one of the big problems. They're afraid. But I know when you have kids and you're an actual parent, your attitude changes, because you have a responsibility for another human and you want to see them succeed. And I got a big shock for you, Grimlock Thunder. I know you guys aren't going to believe this, but
Uh-oh.
half, half of all children born are male.
That's true.
Yeah.
Shock.
shocked.
Roughly, yeah.
And they all have mamas. They might not have daddies around, but they all got mamas around.
That's true.
Yeah, and those mamas feel responsible for that kid for the most part, and they want them to be successful. They want them to be happy. Shocking as that may be, and taking their kid to a movie, whether it be, of course, is more for girls, but even taking their daughter to a movie that tells you that heteronormativity is a bad thing. It's not what a parent wants to hear, dude. And this movie, they just can't shut up. And the people of Mattel are just absolutely incensed. They
I
are,
got a
dude.
question, because as of late, we've talked about this a couple of times where we have seen a movie get advertised as it's supposed to be this ultra woke thing and turn out to not be the case. We
Yeah,
saw that with
that could
Dungeons
be
and
true. Yeah,
Dragons.
it could be true.
Do
But
you
they're
do you
killing
because
it.
and you know that yeah, I'm like, do you think that somebody told them to do that, but they're just really fucking overdoing it?
Maybe it's possible. And Dungeons and Dragons paid for it because there was nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that
and
movie.
this movie will pay for it too if that's the
Yeah.
case.
I mean,
Because
they did have
like
one of every color in the movie, which is a dumb thing. But there was nothing wrong with Dungeons and Dragons at all. It was a fun movie. But they killed it.
yeah,
They
well,
murdered
that's what
it,
I'm saying.
dude.
Because everybody I know that actually went and saw it said, "Hey, this was a good movie," and it wasn't nearly what they thought it was going to be.
It was the
And I'm just
best D and
sitting
D
here, and
movie ever made. Plain and simple.
and I'm not saying that that's completely the case in this, but they like to copy shit.
Yeah, no, yeah,
And
it could be. It could be, but I mean, it's irrelevant because this is a movie that parents bring kids to. It's
yeah,
not like some of the other movies that the parents go to and drag the kids along. They're very different things. My kids were in the movie theaters with me, seeing all kind of movies. They went to see The Matrix. You think they gave a shit? No. They didn't care. They were
no.
little babies, right? But this is a movie that you actually take your kids to. It's not for you, it's for them, right? And I'm telling you, a lot of these moms are not going to like hearing what they're hearing coming out of this because this is not what they want to teach their daughters. They have dreams and aspirations. When you're a child, you have aspirations for them. And those mothers their dream for their child is to get married and to have kids so that they can have grandchildren. It's selfish, sure, but that is the aspiration. And this is telling them that, hey, you bring your kid to our movie, we're going to teach them not to do that nonsense. We're going to teach your daughters that no, you go be lesbians. You don't have to have men in your life. You don't need that nonsense. And do you think mothers want to teach their daughters this? No, they don't. There's a small
The ones
minority.
in LA do.
Well, but the majority of moms have no interest in that whatsoever, dude.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how many times do I have to tell the star, Simu Liu, to fuck off?
And he just won't.
He's not a star. That's the first thing.
He's a bad penny. He always turns up.
That's true. My mom says, my wife says he's a salesman, a
Yeah,
salaryman. He
yeah.
looks like
And
a
he's not.
salaryman.
Yeah.
What's
He
funny is everything you're complaining about, Chester. All the reviews I've seen have said effectively that this is not really a movie for families. They decided for some reason to make this more of a movie for like young adults. I think that was the worst fucking decision you could have ever came up with. Look, and we have evidence that that's stupid. Look at the Sonic movies. Look at the Mario movie. You can make a lot of money in that space if you just make it for that space.
Sure.
Make it for what it's
Make it
supposed
for
to be.
kids.
Barbie is supposed to be
Yeah.
for little
And
girls.
the
She's supposed to be aspirational.
she's supposed to
Why
be.
she does everything.
Yeah. She's
There's
very
everything, Barbie.
very aspirational feminist success story, Barbie. But the thing is, the reason why those, like Super Mario Brothers, Sonic work is because it's for kids. You bring the children to it, but whilst you brought your children to it, have a nostalgic feel too, right? But
yes.
instead of trying to make it, well, let's make it for the grown up kids that liked our toy. No, don't do that.
Let's make it for the 35-year-old bitter white bitches in LA who wrote this shit.
That's what they did. Yeah.
Like here's a quote from Margot herself.
Overrated
This
white
this
woman.
is such a thing people say when they do press for a movie. They're like, "It's for everyone," but it was literally crafted to be for everyone. She said after being asked if the film was for kids, director Greta Gerwig, which first of all, why are we letting Germans make this shit?
I know it's
Uh,
the damn German invasion.
crafted humor aimed at children and adults. The film star further explained. No, you numbskulls. This should be directed directly at young girls.
It should be. Yeah.
It's Barbie. If adults find some humor in it, that's fine. But this is not. They're just so dumb. It should not be for everyone. Not everything has to be for everyone. Some things can just be be who they are for. And that's
They
what
don't
Barbie should get.
understand. They don't understand the difference between availability and accessibility.
Mhm.
Because we've seen this argument happen. You've been seeing this argument happen more and more in video games too. But this needs to be. No, it doesn't need to be accessible to everybody. Is it available to everyone? Yes, should be available to everyone. But is it for everyone? No. I'm gonna be honest. This movie could have been a fucking masterpiece, and I still wasn't gonna go see this shit. It's a fucking
Well,
Barbie movie.
it's not for us. That's true.
But yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But if it's available, if I actually did want to see it,
This is one of those
but
movies that shouldn't be for us.
yes,
We shouldn't hear about this great joke that's in the Barbie movie that makes, men in their 30s and 40s and 50s giggle. That's not that it's a Barbie movie. It shouldn't
Yeah,
be
I
a
mean,
joke that we understand or laugh at. You know what I mean?
well, who do they
Like
think they are? Leon Schlesinger? I mean, really?
no,
but my that's my point though. Like the Mario movie is a perfect example. They knew who that movie was for. It never stops being for kids, and that's fine. I can, as an adult, I can enjoy something that I know is not necessarily directed at my age group or my level of
Sure.
maturity, as long as it's well made and sincere. And it was. Barbie could have been that, but they decided it needed to be everything but. From all the
Yep.
reviews I'm seeing, and that's going to kill it.
It is
Nobody's
going to
going to.
kill. It's dead in the water already. Yeah, the nail is literally in the coffin. But the thing I also don't understand about this is Mattel has been making CG, horrible looking CG Barbie movies for years and years.
Yep.
And they're successful enough for the Barbie girls, right? So it's like you've been making these movies all along. Why did you then decide to spend $100 million or whatever this cost on a live action? I mean, really, why did you do that, Mattel? You've been having success with your little CG movies for literally decades. Why would you do it? I just don't understand the thinking. They already had a format. They already had their media, and they're getting out to the little girls. Why would they do this? Why would? Because they dropped a ton of money on this shit, dude. I just don't understand the thinking.
Money laundering.
Maybe it
That's
could
the
be that
only
simple.
answer that makes sense for a lot of this stuff anymore, because they can't claim ignorance anymore. We've seen it happen over and 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 over again for a decade now, where you come out with this strong lefty messaging and people reject the film because of it. There have been very few examples where that did not happen, where somehow it overcame the retarded shit that there are stars and media people were saying. Very few examples of that, but most of the time, these sorts of things kill a film. You guys just talked about Dungeons and Dragons recently. That's the best example.
Yep,
From what I hear, I
they
never saw
killed
it
it.
either. From what I hear, it's a fantastic film, exactly what it
Yeah,
needed
it's
to
fun.
be.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
And they killed it with the wrong messaging because they're
Hmm.
appealing. I used to say they're appealing to Twitter, but Twitter is a place that's drastically changing. But they're appealing to the West Coast. That's what they're appealing to. And that's fine. There's a lot of people living there. I get it. The problem is they can't sustain $200 million budget movies
Dude,
on their
most
own.
of them are Mexicans out there, and they don't like this shit at all. They're Catholics.
That's true.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
But my point is that's where the people who they're appealing to largely live is
Mhm.
their coastals, the
Well,
West Coast, the East
yeah.
Coast, or part of the
Well,
East
they're
Coast.
neighborhoods, yeah, and called
Yeah.
Hollywood and Beverly Hills. But the thing with Dungeons and Dragons though, it's the first movie I've ever seen Chris Pine in that I actually liked. I don't
Yep.
really care for Chris Pine now. I know Gal Gadot has got her, literally biting her bottom lip. She's all thirsty over that guy. My wife doesn't get it either. because he's kind of weird looking head. But it's
Pretty
very
blue eyes.
maybe. But did you see Gal Thurston over him, dude?
Oh
Damn,
yeah, they probably
damn.
boned.
Maybe, but I mean, God, dude, when a woman does that, you are set. And the way the nonchalant, not give a shit attitude that Chris Pine has in his interviews, he's banged a lot of chicks, dude. You
Yeah,
you could just tell
that's
from the
probably why she
swag,
likes him. That's
maybe
probably why.
the
He has
swagger,
that. He
right?
has that. He has that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That swagger.
yeah,
He's
but
got that about him.
keep in mind with Gal, long time married.
Well, listen, we don't know how their marriage works. Maybe that's fine.
Okay,
Got to keep her
uh,
happy somehow, because
maybe.
she's got plenty of offers. Right?
Well,
There's
are you in?
no dearth there.
No, no, that's true. But are you guys ready for a little bit of honesty though? Because we've had
Let's hear it.
lies and shilling and nonsense, heteronormativity crap. Here's some honesty though. Here we go.
The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, I still say is the worst name I've ever heard.
Yep.
Actress admits goal of series is to warp people's vision of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Well, at
L-
least she's being honest.
No
Yeah.
shit.
Let me
You
encapsulate it
don't
even more.
say.
Yeah, you don't say, right? Let me encapsulate a little bit more with this lady that plays a queen or something. Um, she's saying most of the people, young people these days, haven't seen Tolkien, and therefore they want to create their proper version of Tolkien for the people who don't know Tolkien because Tolkien is very problematic. He's a horrible, evil man, a white man
Yeah,
indeed.
how dare
And
he?
our intention was to create a more up to date, a more honest, a more goodness version of Tolkien that represents the better part of humanity. Quote,
Your
unfucking
head,
quote.
your headspace, basically.
Right. But that is how out of touch this lady is. Jesus. She's a raging racist.
No,
Raging racist, dude.
she's not a raging racist. She's a raging fucking idiot.
No,
That
Because
that's a racist, dude. That is hardcore racist.
Yep.
no,
Literal
no,
racism.
I'll say idiocy because she's not even talking about white people. She's talking about warping the world to see J.R.R. Tolkien the way she sees Tolkien.
No, they don't. They hate
She's an
Tolkien.
idiot.
She's told you that she hates Tolkien. They're trying to
Yeah.
take this popular IP and make it their own thing, is what she said, because Tolkien is a horrible white man.
How
Well,
dare he?
good luck. You see, that hasn't worked.
No, it's not going to work because her initial premises, aside from her ridiculous judgment of Mr. Tolkien, of Sir Tolkien, in fact,
Hyphen names
um,
again. Hyphen names.
yeah,
Hyphen names.
they're everywhere. It's a problem.
So, did they not?
Aside
Did
from
she not
that,
just see how the Gollum game just fucking failed?
Or how
aside
her
from yeah,
season did. Yeah.
aside from her ridiculous, characterization of Mr. Tolkien, they have seen it. They
Oh,
have read it. The younger audiences absolutely know the Lord of the Rings. Thank God for Peter Jackson's movies,
Thank God. Yeah,
and
that's true.
because they have seen them, and I know this because my nephews have all watched them, and they're of the generation she's speaking about, and they love them, of course, because they're fantastic. Of course, everybody loves them. And many of them, I think one of them has read some of the books. I don't know if he's read all of it, but I know he's read some of it. So, no, Schnookums, you're just plain wrong. Now, the people you're talking about are people who had no interest in it to begin with, who are only getting an interest in it maybe now for various reasons, probably because they think it's going to be like whatchamacallit, Game of Thrones or whatever, which you tried to do, you idiots. Um, but my point is her initial premise is just completely wrong. Lord of the Rings, it's kind of like saying it kind of like me saying the same thing about George Lucas, that his original Star Wars needs updated because he was an evil, he's not even white, but evil white man. Even though if you talk to everybody I've talked to who's under 25 who's seen the original trilogy prefers it even to the new stuff because it's just better. Just that simple. It's better, especially than the sequel stuff. Like they prefer the prequels and the original way more than they do this modern nonsense. So I don't know who she's talking about. Like, what audience are you trying to play to
Well,
that thinks don't that you think doesn't know the material? Because
Well,
I've never met it.
that is another ridiculous statement, but because a lot of the YouTubers that cover Tolkien are quite young, actually. This
Exactly.
is a reflection of the world we live in. There are many, and we are different, and we will embrace and discover and peel back and learn and educate and be educated. Fuck
Or
you!
what?
I already
Or
went to
what?
school, you
Yeah.
dumbass.
Or what? That's the response. Or what? Because
Or
that sounds like
what?
a threat
It
to me.
does.
Sounds like you're threatening me now, Schnookums. Now I'm going to punch you in the throat. Or what? She'd never say this to somebody's face. Not really. Not
Well,
somebody who's
unless she was in
actually
a
going to
packed
talk
room
down to
with
her.
people, and
Yeah,
she
unless she
thinks
was
she get away with
surrounded
it.
by a bunch of people who
But
would jump him.
this right here is also interesting. I've been kind of highlighting the nonsense she said, which I encapsulated. And we can only do that when we embrace and love our differences. Well, all right. I hear this a lot. I hear that line has been, posted, noted to everybody. And here's the thing: if that's true, then why can't you love the white man too?
That's right. Why can't you love Tolkien the way it was?
Because the
Well,
white man has because you won't have a grievance then.
right. I mean, but if we embrace and love our differences, why don't you embrace and love his difference?
I
Because
just
he has
see.
because white man has more shit and I should have more shit. Since he
There you
has
go.
more shit, he's a problem.
Well, George
Envy,
Carlin had something to say about that.
the green-eyed monster itself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's exactly correct. They talk all the time about inclusion and this and that, and then all they do is go around and destroy great white men's works constantly. And it's always them. They never go and find some great, I don't know, black guy or great Chinese man. They're not out here trying to remake the story of Son Goku, and turn it into a black guy, right? The Monkey King. They're not making the Monkey King to a black guy or an Indian guy or a white guy or a Hispanic guy. No, if they're gonna make that movie, they're
Why
gonna somehow have a Chinese guy playing the Monkey King, and you know it. So
why don't
I
you
don't want to hear it. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just because they hate white people. That's it. That's the bottom line.
yeah.
They hate white people. That's all it is.
Remember
I just said
remember
that.
those 2 weeks when they was bitching about the lack of inclusivity in Cyberpunk 2077 and they found out the guy who created it was black and then all of a sudden it was plenty
Yeah.
inclusive enough?
Yeah. Then it was fine. Yeah. Uh huh.
She's
Yeah.
kind of chubby too.
You
Yeah, of
think
course.
it's always
You can't
fat,
have
ugly
pretty
people.
black
Chubby
girls.
queens.
Yeah. Yeah. Not allowed to have pretty
Again,
black women in movies and TV anymore. It's
Yeah.
forbidden. Not
I
allowed.
guess. Yeah, I guess so.
We used to. Some fine looking women, but not
And I'm
anymore.
assuming she's the queen of Numenor. Numenor, I'm assuming.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
of
of
course. They
course.
blacked up Numenor, of course they
Of
did.
course they did.
Um,
The first men. Um, you know,
Queen of Nougat, maybe.
well, the thing about the Numenorians is they are kind of ultra whites. There are other colors in Tolkien's story. Sure, he's got all the colors because he did base it on Europe.
that's right.
But the Numenorians are representing the white Atlanteans, right? The
Correct.
literally the Cro-Magnons, right?
Correct.
So yeah, okay.
It's
But
just I'm so sick of their nonsensical arguments. All this is cultural conquest. That's what it is. We need to stop pretending that it's anything else. They want scalps. They want to plant their flags and say, "Look at the thing we took from you this time,
mhm.
Whitey. Fuck
and
you.
th-
We hate
and
you."
and
That's
then
all it
not
is.
run it properly, right?
Yeah. Well,
See,
they don't care
because
about that. They
well,
got their
here's the
scalp.
thing: why are white people so successful in the world, and why did white people bring us to this modern age? How did that all work out? Because there's been great empires all over the world. I mean, all over.
Right.
I mean, even the black Africans had great empires. The Kush was quite powerful. Sudan,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Egypt.
so Egypt as well. Well, that was more cosmopolitan, but I'm just saying. Well, it was, but I'm
I
just
know.
saying. There's great empires all over the world from all different kind of colored people. But why was it in the end the whites that brought us to the Industrial Revolution? And of course, it was specifically Protestants, but why was it they who brought us into this modern age? This has been discussed and debated for quite a while,
Pretty
right?
simple.
It is pretty simple because they get up on time, which is now racist. They go to work and do their job,
Which is also racist.
which is also racist.
Yeah.
They're
There. That.
hardworking, racist. They're punctual. They're innovative, racist, and they seek a goal and finish it. Ultra racist.
You want to know a
That's
very simple way to say that? I say it on here all the time. They put truth before face, which means they get up and get to work because the work has to be done.
Yeah, well, the
Simple. There's no
Protestants
other reason.
particular, they were
Yeah.
very much like that. And of course, white people can fail too. Many examples, lots.
Oh, yeah.
But the Protestants, particularly because of their religion, their staunchness to it, it brought out this hardworking, matter of fact innovation that brought us to this world we have
Extreme
today.
pragmatism.
Extreme
Extreme.
pragmatism. There's a
Yep.
reason. Uh, you know, roll the dice. It could have been another group of people, sure, but it
It
just
should have been the Chinese, but they ran away from it for some reason. They had
well,
it,
it's
and they just ran off from it. They said, "Ah, we're done. We're going to close up shop."
radical corruption is the reason why.
Yes,
And the Protestants were on the run. They didn't have power. They were
that's
literally on
true.
the run, and that's why they all ended up in America. It was just a
And they tried
circumstance.
communism. That's a little unknown. Some of the first settlers over here, I think it was the first actual settlements or second, one of them. They tried effectively a form of communism. Obviously, the term hadn't been coined yet, but it
Well,
was basically just communism, and it
community based,
failed
yeah, it
miserably.
did.
And they almost all died. And then the
Yeah,
next wave came in and said, "Well, this is stupid. Let's stop
yeah,
doing this."
yeah.
And they put in a form of basically a form of meritocracy or capitalism, and they thrived.
And they did,
But
and they brought us into the modern world.
yes,
But I'm just saying, all of these things came out of a situation and a time that just yielded those results. It could have been anybody. To be fair, the closest we ever came to an industrial revolution, which would bring you to this kind of age we have, were the Romans actually. And
yep,
the reason the Romans didn't cross that gap, didn't get over that hump, was because of slavery.
yep,
If they had abolished slavery, and there was an emperor there that was thinking about it, if they had abolished slavery, they would have created the
they would
industrial
have forced
revolution. Yeah,
steam innovation because they had
yeah,
steam power. They just didn't
they
know
did.
what
They
to
had a lot of other very because the Romans, the Greeks are fancier, much more beautiful. The Egyptians are incredible builders, beautiful stuff. But the Romans, it's not really that pretty because they were staunch pragmatists, right?
yes,
And
straight from
that
that.
and well, that's true, but that's what's needed you need that pragmatic thought to get and extreme hard work to get to where you want to get.
Yes.
And the Protestants are just the ones that took us over the hump. They just were. And the simple fact
There's
that
another reason too. One of the other reasons is because in Europe for so long, the punishment for basically any crime was death or a great suffering, or
horrible
even made
suffering,
you a
yeah,
eunuch.
torture,
It
yeah,
basically filtered out a lot of the really, really bad people, and they got filtered out through the bottom, either through wars because they were forced to go fight and they would get killed, or just by being, executed. And so what was left was a different stock of people. And once they had the genetics there, which most people have, but they had a nice supply of it because of that. Once you got the ideology in to tell them, hey, you don't have to be a peasant, you can go do something else,
yeah,
and
be
science
productive,
grows very quickly out of a people who want it.
sure,
Like the Chinese had a time, like I was talking about, where they could have been that. They wanted it. They were all sorts of inventions. They came up with all sorts of stuff.
sure,
The Arabs, the Persians, technically,
oh yeah,
same thing. They were right on the cusp. And you just said, like the Romans, for various reasons, these groups of people walked away
hmm
from the perfect ideology. The perfect ideology is truth before face. That means you do what is right regardless of the cost to you
yeah,
personally.
that's true,
And the
and
Protestants made that a literal religion and followed
they
it
did,
like a
yeah.
religion and built what we have now.
They did. And one of the other problems, we've had technologies pop up throughout history, right? Steam
Yep.
power has come up several
Plumbing.
times, right?
Yep.
Plumbing, things like that. But it was usually kept in the hands of the rich and elite. It
Yep.
didn't come down to the pauper. And the thing with the Protestants that was very important in this, you have to remember, go to Europe, find me a Protestant.
Yeah.
You got to go to like Denmark or something, dude.
Yeah,
They're
northern Europe.
not there because they were being murdered wholesale by the Catholic Church and their French
That's right.
army. They escaped. They
Fucking
ran
French.
across the ocean to a new colonies in the Americas, right?
That's right.
And the fact these are not rich people, these are not powerful people, these are common men who went out there and they had to literally tame a wilderness.
A continent.
Literally. And
Yeah.
those circumstances created the Industrial Revolution and things. Now, I know you're saying,
Right.
well, that started in Britain. Yeah, but keep in mind, those were British colonies, buddy. Right?
Exactly. And
Uh,
who is the superpower now, and who isn't?
yeah.
So suck it, Britain.
But I mean,
Um,
the reason why I'm going through exactly, but reason I'm going through all this is because everything that the Protestants stood for, and I don't care about their religion. That's a separate conversation.
the
But
spiritualism.
their spiritualism. But I mean,
Yep.
everything they stood for is now being told to us that is racist. It is
That's right.
racist. It is white supremacist. It is alt right. It is the
Even though,
Nazis.
Chester, um, it was probably brown people that came up with it.
Oh,
I'm just saying. Most
probably.
likely wasn't a bunch of Irish-looking motherfuckers who came up with it originally. That's all I'm saying. It was probably some shade of brown that came up with it, and the Protestants just took it and ran with it. They said, "Oh, we like your style. We're
Do
going to
we
do this."
do we
And they,
consider the Turks to be brown?
I think so. It depends who you ask, because I don't
Okay.
think they consider themselves brown,
Yeah.
but other people seem to.
They're pretty
I
white,
know I
but
wouldn't consider the Syrians brown, and they're pretty. They're
yeah.
right in that ballpark. They're
Yeah,
pretty.
because
They're basically white.
a lot of that rolling technology that came into the Industrial Revolution was coming out of there, really.
That's true.
And the Protestants took it for sure. It's not, and I understand. Not saying these are the smartest people, ooh, white people. It's not about
No,
that, dude. It's about
no,
the circumstances of the moment that allowed the world to get to where it is today. And it doesn't take a lot of research to understand what I've just said. I can talk about any region on the planet, right? Because I'm literally a historical person. But if you
mhm.
want to go do research on one little subject, anybody can do that.
Yeah, I've done it.
Anybody, especially
You've definitely
today.
done way more research on these things than I have, and we're agreeing with each other because we've
Yeah,
done the same. We've
right.
come across the same pattern throughout history.
But I'm saying anybody can do this, especially these days with the tools at your hand. You can learn about how these things came to place. It's not about whitey. It's about
That's right.
this. It's about persecution, really, because the thing about humanity is we thrive under pressure.
We simply
Um,
don't quit.
no, and this is why we have the expression that empires come in under the iron boot and leave under the silk slipper,
Yes,
because struggle is what creates success. And
that's right.
unfortunately, we've come into the silk slipper age. Poor
Oh,
Grimlock
it's coming.
can't find one that fits him.
It's coming. No, I say it all the time because I used to argue with actual, the real ones, the real white supremacists. They're out there. You can find them. You got to dig. They're there.
You know,
And I used to tell them what you're saying is only true in the context of the last, I don't know, 1,000 years or so. When you go back a little further, and even different times in that time frame, it's simply untrue. White people have not always been superior to other people, and they're not really
no,
now.
it was just
Um,
the circumstance. It really
yeah, it was
was. Yeah,
just a circumstance. It was the fact that the Christian Reformations happened. The Protestants came in with their insane work ethic and their insistence on being truthful and being honest and
yeah,
putting truth before face, which is the term we use now, truth before face.
yeah.
And the fact that the rest of the world was so ego driven, they went the other way and drove themselves into the ground,
Right.
like China and other places, drove themselves into the dirt so that the prize was there for the taking. All it took was somebody with the will to go take it.
Yeah.
And that was what the Protestants did. They
Right.
drove the scientific revolutions. If you remember, the
It's the
early
Yankees.
scientists, the early scientists said the reason they are studying the universe is to understand God's work better. That was why they did it. They were deeply Christian men,
Yeah.
deeply. They 100% believed in God. They weren't deists, they weren't theists. They were Christians. They believed in the God of the Bible. They
Yeah.
believed in Jesus Christ. Now, obviously, it evolved beyond that, which thankfully, but that was what started the original scientific revolution, as we call it, in Europe. Um,
Yeah, sure.
this entire thing was driven by a very simple principle they didn't even put into words. Jesus himself did, oddly enough, but it was just the pursuit of truth. And that doesn't mean necessarily scientific or spiritual truth. It just means in your daily life, are you being true? Are
Mhm.
you being honest? Are you being forthright? Are you showing up? Are you doing the work you need to do? Do you have duty? Are you
Yeah.
fulfilling your duty as a person, as a man, as a woman, as a whatever? That is what drove them and made, like you said, they came here, they tamed a wilderness. This place was wild. The Indians that lived here were savages by
Yeah,
every metric you could come up with.
something happened. There was some kind of
Yes.
apocalyptic event, yeah.
And they were basically wild men and women living in a very wild way. That doesn't mean they were necessarily bad people. Many of them were. Doesn't mean they all were. But the reality is they came here and there was nothing here, or very, very, very little here. It was a wild, untamed land, and over the next 300-400 years, they completely tamed it to where I'm sitting in what used to be a swamp that is no longer a swamp because we tamed the damn continent.
Right.
We even terraformed it in
Yeah.
places like where I'm at.
Did you see
So
that did you see that thing with the Seminoles recently? Because
uh,
remember when those 100 some years ago, when those New Yorkers came down and they wanted to build a port and call it Miami, the Seminoles are laughing at them. You can't build anything. It's a swamp. What are you doing, morons? You can't do anything over there. Of
yes,
course, they came in and they built Miami, and now the Seminoles want their land back. You hear that shit?
of course they do. Well, wait, you actually did something with it. I'd like that back, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, they tried the
assholes.
same thing with Manhattan too, and it didn't work. It didn't work out
Yeah,
clearly. Uh, but my point is like you said, Chester. Anyone can do this, and at differing points in history, other groups of people, other races, other ethnic groups, whatever you want to call them, have,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they've succeeded.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's nothing special uniquely about the white race, quote unquote, the Europeans, other than the fact that they did it for seemingly longer than other people. They stuck to it for longer. And I think a lot of that was because of Christianity, but it was also because of the New World.
Yeah,
It reinvigorated a lot
it
of
did,
the movements.
and you got to keep in mind, no one lives like they lived anymore. Not
That's
even the Amish. You got to understand that they took that phrase in Genesis, that ye shall survive by the sweat of ye brow, very,
yes.
very seriously.
Yes.
Fun was completely abated,
If a
right?
man does
Completely.
not work, he does not eat. And they lived that.
They did. There was no dancing. There were no stimulants and no coffee or tea or any of that kind of stuff. And later we saw some that come in. We're talking about the first couple hundred years, right?
They were
Um,
hardcore.
they were hardcore, dude.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
The women,
No one lives like
hardcore.
that anymore. Nobody.
You didn't want to mess with one of them old pioneer women. They'd mess you up. You didn't want it. You didn't want that smoke. They didn't care. They were tough as nails, these women.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny to me we've had this big push to make things make everything female, yet for some reason I don't see any pioneer stories, any real ones out here talking about. You can find them. I've read some of the journals of the old pioneers and things, of the old, the settlers and stuff. They wrote a lot of stuff down. You can find some of these stories which sound just insane, but
Well,
these
yeah.
people lived it.
One comes to my mind. Lily O'Shaughnessy,
Mm,
actually, as a diary from these periods, a little bit after. It was in the late 1680s or 90s or something like that. And she was, I forget, she was in the wood collecting. I think she was gathering mushrooms or something like that. And a couple of Indians, because in general they got along with the Indians pretty well in that area, because they agreed to help them and work and fight with, and the Indians felt bad for them, to fight against their enemies for a long in the beginning. Actually, the Protestant settlers and the
yep,
Indians got along really well, but
very
of course
sympathetic.
there are bad people, right? And she was out collecting mushrooms, and I think it was mushrooms. And a couple of Indian guys saw her, grabbed her, dragged her off in the woods, and raped her, beat her, and raped her. Right? And she writes in her diary that she just waited in it. I'm going to, translate it from the 400-year-old English. But basically, she waited for them to finish their business, and then because they had a bottle, and that's probably what the problem was, because Native Americans can't drink for shit. Asians
Yeah, it's
cannot
true.
drink, right?
It's true.
And they were in their bottle. She said they were in their bottles, and they basically kind of were just afterward, just kind of lounging and sleepily on the ground. She just waited, let them finish their business, and get into their chill attitude. And she took a tomahawk from one of the Indians and split their heads, and then went back,
That's right.
gathered her goddamn mushrooms, and went home.
That's right.
That is a Protestant pioneer woman.
That's a hard bitch.
Yeah.
That is. That's you don't mess
Don't
with
mess
her.
with Lily O'Shaughnessy,
Don't
right?
do it.
You
Yes,
don't do
you're not
it.
coming out of this. You're not coming out of this well. Yes, exactly. So where's that movie? That could be a badass movie. Where's that movie? They don't
Well,
want to
it's
make
just
that
an
movie.
incident. But there are a lot of these diaries and journals across
Nope.
the America during the colonial times that have interesting stories like this, and no one talks about them,
Nope.
right? We have the data, we have the information. But anyway, let me go and show the last thing, because I do need to get out of here, of course. But I thought maybe it'd be nice after all of this, this affirmative conversation regarding the end of heteronormativity, to see how a manly movie is doing.
Oh, here we go. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, 235 million already. Damn.
Yeah,
Just
now,
came out.
yeah, it just came out. Now, that is not necessarily a lot of money, but it's not the greatest opening of all time, right?
No.
That's 116 million, 17 million dollars. This movie, we know, because Tom's involved, its budget's going to be a little more reasonable, right? Because he doesn't let those budgets get crazy like that. He's very strict. So this is probably somewhere around $80 million movie. 50 to $80 million is kind of where these movies often show up. We'll see when we get that information. But so far, I'd say they probably haven't broken even yet. Maybe they probably haven't broken even yet. However, the question is, does this movie have legs? Because The Flash came out to much less than that, and it died immediately. Indiana Jones came
Immediately.
out and died immediately. Little Mermaid came out and died immediately. Everything has come out and died immediately. So does old Ethan Hunt here have some legs? If we see next weekend of similar numbers and we see it go for 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks, which some movies do, this could be a huge hit for them. But we can't celebrate yet, because this isn't like this crazy opening.
I think it's still doing pretty good, and as long as it does it probably won't. It'd be nice if it did. It'd be nice if it does something similar to Top Gun. That movie was in theaters forever
Yeah,
because it just kept making money, and it kept bouncing back and making more money. It was crazy. This
and
could potentially do that, and the
it could.
reason why it could is because there's nothing coming that anybody wants to see. There
Well,
is
you got the
nothing in the box
Oppenheimer
office.
movie.
Yeah, but that's I'm gonna I don't think it's going to be a lot of money. It might, but I don't think it is. I don't think the market wants that right now. What the market wants is a good action movie. I think. I think we saw that last year with Top Gun Maverick. Right? Obviously, it was fantastic. And it did fantastic amounts of money. And I think that's what the market wants. I don't know if really the market is looking for a serious drama about Mr. Oppenheimer. I just don't know if it's going to make the money they think it's going to make. I really don't. I could be wrong. I'd be glad to be wrong. But the only movie that I can think of off the top of my head that's coming out this year that I personally am interested in is that Creator movie
Yeah,
because it looks like good sci-fi,
yeah.
which we haven't had in a
Don't
long
watch
time.
Foundation. It looks horrible.
No, yeah, don't
Sound
do
of
that.
Freedom, of course, is doing well for its budget. And
Oh,
never even
it-
heard of this Warhorse One. Once a
me
Time in
neither.
Uganda, maybe no. Bad Girl Boogie. Doke. Wham! My wife was watching that. Torturous. Let's see. Insidious: The Red Door. Joyride. Okay. Let's see. The Outlaws. This kid is so annoying. This kid is so annoying. What's his name?
Yep.
Ben Zazov. This Jewish kid. He's so annoying. See, I don't see anything. Earth Mama. Yeah, that's going to be a big one. Amanda. Let's see here. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. All right. Gray Matter, Jewel Thieves. Ooh, but did Oppenheimer get pushed back?
I think it did, yeah,
Did they
to
push it
avoid
back?
Mission Impossible.
Bird Box Barcelona, yeah, right. Imagine Dragons live in Vegas. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a huge one. Well, there's a lot of movies coming out in this weekend. This particular one, huh? They pushed Oppenheimer back, dude.
There's
Barbie's
Barbie. It's
coming
coming
at
out
the
with
end.
Barbie
It's
now.
coming out with Barbie, and it's going to murder Barbie. So, basically, he's got he's got a week or so.
Yep.
So because we'll see.
I wouldn't
Uh,
be surprised if Oppenheimer comes out, makes a little bit of money, and then just kind of fades off.
it's
Be- I
possible.
just, I just have a feeling that's what's going to happen. Nolan isn't the draw he used to be. For one, he hasn't made a good movie, in my opinion, in almost 20 years. Um, so it's 15 years. So I just don't think he's going to be the big draw people are expecting. I really don't. And I have a feeling that Top Gun's going to have, or Top Gun, Mission Impossible is going to have a little bit more legs than people think it is,
Mhm.
strictly because there's nothing else. Where's the big summer action
Dude,
movies at, man?
July 28th, he's in big trouble. Tom is in, he's worried. I know he's sweating. Sympathy
Oh,
for the Devil, Nicolas Cage, sir.
oh
Nicolas
boy,
Cage.
I don't
Okay.
I don't think he's sweating.
Okay.
A kinetic neo noir movie,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
means.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's Nicolas Cage. It's all you need to know. Let's see here. No, I don't see anything, nothing
Nothing.
other than Oppenheimer. I know
Yep.
Nick Cage has another movie coming out where he's the dried up old uncle who was a former assassin, which looks great. But
Yep.
those are niche films. So the only thing he's looking at is Oppenheimer. And to be fair, Oppenheimer and the new Ethan Hunt movie can exist in the same time, making similar money without a problem.
Yep.
It's not like only one movie a summer makes money, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they can run simultaneously and be fine. I honestly do think Mission Impossible is going to have legs. I think it'll be in theaters probably. Let's see. It came out what, July 12th?
12. Yeah.
I'm going to take a guess it's going to make it almost to October before they pull it. They'll probably pull it sometime in September unless it dies off massively. But I just don't think it's going to.
Well,
For whatever reason, I think it's gonna have those legs similar, not the same. I think Maverick was a unique case, but it's gonna be similar to Maverick. Maverick was in theaters. I don't even 4 months had to be.
people
It was
love
in
that
there
movie.
forever.
Yeah, I know it was delayed. I had to wait a long time to see it. However, the people's whose opinion I appreciate, sorry, movie critics, they think like I do, right? And that's
Yep.
when you find a critic, it's finding someone who thinks like you, right?
Yep.
Um, they love it. They've already seen it and they love it.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, and honestly, the thing is, Tom, excuse me, Tom has got the formula locked in, dude.
He does.
He
He knows what
knows
he's doing.
exactly how to make money. I noticed that there were some things on YouTube where people were trying to muddy his name. You notice that?
Yep.
Trying to, say, with the real Tom Cruise is super evil alien Scientology man. There was a lot of videos coming out to try to, to diminish Tom Cruise. And the simple fact of the matter is, I just don't think you can. I mean,
No, I
I
think
understand our boy Grimlock here doesn't like him, but most
he
people are.
survived Scientology, bro. You
He
ain't
did.
you ain't taking him down at this point. I don't
No,
think he's cancelable.
and the thing is, Tom understands very clearly how to make money and what his job is. He
Yes.
understands
And he does it very
exactly
well.
what his job is, right? And to be fair, this part one and part two come out. It's probably the end of Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise involved with it. I
I
can't
think that's the
imagine.
plan, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see any more. But hey, it's a fun series. Um, you know, but Tom knows exactly what it wants, and he understands that people, the average person, is not interested in your politic. They just want to be entertained. He gets it. That's why when they came up initially, they're going to take the Taiwanese flag off of his jacket and Maverick. He stood up and because he's the boss, he stood up and said, "Hey, you ain't doing that. Fuck off.
Not that ain't happening.
No, no way." we're connecting one world to another. And the thing is, if you do that, people are going to talk about it, and they did anyway because they wanted to. But he understands that I don't want any of those kind of conversations. All I want is people saying, "Yeah, it was a fun action movie. Yay, Tom Cruise." That's all he wants to hear.
Well, he knows they're never going to let him get an Oscar because if he didn't get him from his movies he did in the '90s, then nothing he could make now is going to get it.
Yeah,
So
maybe he doesn't give a shit.
So he doesn't even care about that kind of stuff. Is my point, right? He doesn't. He's as a professional actor, he's moved way past caring about accolades from the industry. It's obvious he doesn't give a shit about what the industry says about him, and he just makes movies that he thinks the market wants.
Mhm.
Simple as that. He's a businessman now. It's purely
Well,
transactional,
and
I appreciate the hell out of that.
Sure. And he knows how to manage his money. He's a very wealthy man. He's much
Oh yeah,
more wealthy than his movies made him because he knows how to manage his money. Um, and he takes his job very seriously, and I appreciate that. It's kind of like Jackie Chan in a way, right?
yep.
Because Jackie's a very different animal, but Jackie had troubles in his personal life too. But Jackie took his job very, very seriously. As
Yes.
does Tom. What does Tom do? He teaches himself to fly planes because I want you to see me in the plane. He teaches himself how to ride motorcycles because I want you to see me on the bike. He teaches himself how to hang glide, how to skydive, etc., 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 because he wants you to see his face doing it. The guy goes out. He's 50 something years old. He jumped off a damn cliff 6 times in one day because he just wanted to make sure the shot was, perfect.
Yep.
I mean, give this man your money. It's simple.
No.
No, not doing it. Nope.
Poor Grimlock. He's found himself amongst enemies.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Anyway, that's what I got.
I appreciate his I appreciate very heavily that Grimlock, our boy Grimlock here, his hatred for Tom is so pure and it will not be swayed. I appreciate that level of commitment to it.
Can you
He's
explain?
decided this is who he is. He's a man who hates Tom Cruise. And I'm fine with that.
Well-
He knows who he is.
Why is it though, Grimlock? I'm not going to sit here and say he's my favorite dude either. I mean, he's no Keanu Reeves. I mean, he's a much better actor, but I mean, he's just. I respect the work ethic is what for me. Why do you hate
I respect
Tom?
all of that. There's just something about him that just makes me want to take a swing at him.
All right, fair enough.
Got a very
No, I get it.
punchable face.
I understand that. Yeah.
It's yeah, all that other stuff. I could totally understand, but like, it's just something about him. You make eye contact, he smiles at you, and I want to punch him right in the mouth.
Dude.
Yep. I
Dude.
get that.
It's like-
He comes off that.
When I see sports mascots in their outfits, I
Exactly,
want to
see?
tackle
Yeah,
them.
you want to smack him.
I want to tackle them. I don't know. It's
Violently.
this urge that comes over me when I
Primal
see them.
urge.
I want to just like I used to be a linebacker. I know how to do that shit.
Yeah.
But I really want to tackle them. I don't know why, but I do.
It's certain things set off a primal urge
Mhm.
in your head. It's like,
For violence.
yeah, well, not just that. It's certain things. It could be, lust or whatever. Like, certain things, like, I don't know what it is, but I want to fuck the hell out of that woman.
Oh yeah.
It's
No, I
it's
understand that
it's
too.
it's
I
thing.
understand
It's just the opposite with Tom Cruise.
Salma
Like, I see the
Hayek.
guy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She could be 100 years old, and I'll be like, you know what? It's Salma.
It's
give it
dude,
to her.
and if you really look at it logistically, I mean realistically, she's not the hottest chick ever. She's not. But damn,
Sexy.
damn, Selma. I just saw her in this thing. My wife was watching one of those Black Mirror things. It's just a little, she was in,
Mhm.
10 minutes on the screen or something. Dude, smoking hot.
Yeah.
And she's an old lady.
Yeah. She has literally aged like a fine wine.
She has.
Literally. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the girl who is like used to be a supermodel playing the main character in that story, she's not wearing makeup because that's what the character is. But she looks like beat dog meat, dude. She looks hard. And Salma had hardly any makeup on. Just the
Yeah.
just the kind of that light touch that women tend to put on, not cake in it. Dude, oh man, Salma. I don't know. I don't know.
Genetically blessed, that one.
Yeah,
The gifts.
the gifts.
I need to go see this movie. I might go see it tomorrow. Actually, I forgot it was coming out this weekend. I thought it was next weekend.
She's
But
getting a
apparently,
little magic mic, I hear.
I've missed a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna go see this. I've been trying to get my wife caught up on them because she had never really seen any of them, or if she did, she barely remembered them. So I've been trying to get her caught up so we can just go see it together. But we haven't succeeded in that goal yet.
Mhm.
But I do want to see it. I It's kind of weird because if you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd watch any of these movies, I'm like, no, they're stupid. But I said the same thing about the Fast and the Furious movies, and then I watched them, and I said, yeah, they're stupid, but they're fun as hell, and they
Oh,
have a
they're
good
super
message.
stupid. Well, it's like the
Um,
John Wick movie. Did you see the last one? How many
it's
times they're running around with
ridiculous.
their suit jackets blocking bullets? It's so stupid, dude. It's ridiculously stupid, but I
He takes a
love it.
beating. He takes a beating that would have broke Superman's back. He gets his ass kicked in that movie.
A
He just
lot.
keeps coming.
Yeah, no.
Just
Well,
keeps
he is
going.
the Baba Yaga. He's the undefeatable,
Yeah,
right? Which is why the ending was so stupid.
it was. It was a bad ending. Bad choice. Very bad. You hear my cat? Do you hear her? She's just
Yes.
caterwauling.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with her. She's just walking around. She probably got a toy in her mouth, and the peasants all need to be informed that she has killed this toy, and now we must celebrate her name. You see,
Yes, well, cats are
this is the
noisy.
game.
It's
Yeah.
true. Can't
Then
shut
I
them
have my
up.
other cat in here, literally just laying in here sleeping, just
Yeah.
not being bothered at all.
Yeah,
That's cats.
you can silence a dog, but not a cat.
Yep.
No.
No, if they want to talk, they're going to talk.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah, oh
listen.
God.
Except for a husky.
So-
I have yet to see
That's
anyone
true.
silence a husky.
Huskies are talkers. They got a lot to say, and they will tell you about it.
Well,
Yeah.
I've never had one of those. I've only had.
Oh,
I've been around a couple of dogs though.
they're quite the talkative ones.
Yep.
Hmm.
I had a great
Interesting.
big giant Siberian husky. He on all fours stood up to just about my chest. He was a
Wow.
beast of a dog. But he was the biggest, sweetest boy you ever met. The only thing he liked to do is, he's a husky, so he liked to run. And occasionally he'd get out of the yard somehow, some way. He'd finagle a way out of the yard because they're smart too. And so he'd get out of the yard, and it was on because he knew he wasn't supposed to be out of the yard. There was no misunderstanding here. He was just having fun. So he's out there running around, and you're out there chasing him, and he'd look back at you and laugh. He'd be laughing at you because he knows you can't catch him. He knows it, so he's just off. And he looked like a damn wolf. So he'd come running up to people, all happy, and they're all terrified, like a wolf's coming at him. And he was just a big, beautiful husky. His name was Lakaios. Big, beautiful, blue-eyed husky, and he was just an absolute sweet boy. Never caused any trouble, never hurt anybody. My dog I have now, we had them together, and he, because one of the good things to do if you ever get a dog is get them around an older dog, and that older dog will effectively raise them. They can
Oh
teach.
yeah.
Like my dog, my dog now was potty trained by my uncle's old dog. She wanted to be around him. He wanted to go outside to go potty. She learned from him to go outside to go potty. Not from me. I didn't teach it to her. He did. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened here. So she was being annoying as a puppy to him, trying to get him to play. And he was an big old, heavy, fat, not heavy, but like heavy coat. So he was hot all the time, constantly hot. So he's just laying there sweating. And eventually he had enough of it, and he took his big paw and just whacked her. Not like super hard, but enough. And she went rolling across the floor. She got up all mad, barking at him. He just looked at her.
Yeah. No, that's true. They do that. I had a friend of mine who worked for. He's a photographer for National Geographic, and he was back when I was in Rhode Island. He was back in town, and he had a friend with him, and this friend was part of this back in the 80s. His friend was part of the project back in those days to reintroduce the wolf to North America, right? And they had a breeding program, and he actually had tamed one of the wolves they had gotten, and
Yep.
it was just his dog, right?
Yeah.
So I've actually seen and petted an actual wolf. They are
Mhm.
freaking huge.
They're gigantic, bro.
They're really big. They're way bigger than you thought they are. Dogs are
Yep.
small. Wolves are
comparatively.
really big,
Yeah.
dude.
And we actually think he might have been like a wolf dog because my wife got him from her cousin from Tennessee. She had him in Tennessee and brought him up here, and my wife basically took him from her. I don't remember why, for various reasons. And that's how she got him before her and I even got together. So she was his dog. And I'm telling you, if he wasn't part wolf, he was damn near close because
Well,
huskies are
huskies
real
are
close
close.
anyway.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, he was just big. He's the only dog ever in my entire life I looked at in the first meeting. I was a little intimidated because he was so big. Like you said, like when you walk up to a wolf and it's so big, you're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
They're
That's how
lean.
big this dog was.
They're
And
lean,
lean, yep,
but
he was
they're
big and lean.
tall. Yeah.
He had bad knees because he was just so big. His knees were bad. He had 2 knee surgeries. Um, and it was just the way he was, tall, lean. He looked exact. He had the wolf-like features because he's a husky, of course. He was just a. I honestly think he was part wolf because he was so big. I've never met a husky this tall.
Yeah.
Like he was
Well,
just ridiculously tall.
the interesting thing, because I did spend a little bit of time around that wolf, and
Mhm.
it's the interesting thing is they move differently than dogs do.
Yeah, they move like predators.
Well, it's not just that; it's how they move their legs.
Yep.
It is different. I had never noticed that from watching National Geographic or something. Uh, but dogs move
Well,
differently.
a lot of them have really long legs too. Like we've stunted dogs, right? With the way we bred them and stuff,
It's
intentionally,
true.
most of them. We stunted their legs for various reasons.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons why they're so much shorter is because of all of our, you know, mad scientistness that
Yeah,
we've
our
done with the
breeding
with the
natures.
canine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm way past my time, and it's certainly Grimlock's fault. 11 minutes past Grimlock. It's your job.
That's true.
You're gonna ask the black person to end something on time here.
Oh, that's
You
fair.
really doing?
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Fair enough. All right. Well, anyway, thank you all very much. Keep in mind, we'll be back next week for more of the shenanigans. It's just fun having a laugh at the silliness, of course. But wow, dude, wow. Normal is bad now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Normal is evil.
Yeah.
You're evil. You're also evil if you want to be in
Ne-
shape and not be a fat
Next,
slug.
watch. There's going to be an article. I bet you it'll come out from the Huffington Post or the Atlantic. That washing your ass is a sign of white supremacy.
I bet.
Yes, being hygiene is a sign of
Yeah.
white supremacy. I think that
Yeah.
article exists. I'm not even being funny. I think that's already been said that that Western standards of hygiene are oppressive. Something to that
Well,
effect
the
was
Indians
the
would
article.
agree.
I'm sure they would.
Mm. They got mad because they were having the Commonwealth Games over in India, and
Yep.
a lot of the visitors coming in where everything was so dirty and filthy, and the Indian government was like, "Well, you guys just have this weird standard. Relax." It's like, okay.
We'd like to not live in filth. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well,
Just
just keep in mind they do literally shit outside. There's hardly a nary a toilet in India. But
yes.
nevertheless, I gotta go. God damn it, take us out of
Get
here.
out of here. I got one for you, Chester. We were talking about how these people keep doing these nonsense things out of spite. That's why they're doing what they're doing. And I like this one. It's the one I came up with. What good have you done by breaking 2 hearts to mend one?
Oh yeah, that's true. Sounds kind of like Barbie.
Yes.
Later.